Okay, calling to order the Committee on Ways and Means and Economic Development and Tourism. So this afternoon, we'll hear from DBED, who will present their biennium budget requests. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair. Hello, Chair Dela Cruz, Vice Chair Morwaki, Senator DeCoit, and members of the Senate Ways and Means Committee. Mahalo for this opportunity to present our goals, objectives, and budget requests to this committee. We have asked all of our agency directors and division managers to be available with us today to respond to any questions that you may have. I've always said that I'm the most fortunate department head in the state government, and the team in this room is the reason why. Let me introduce our team. Sitting here with me is Deputy Director Dane Wicker, who many of you know with his many years here in the Senate. Has been, a great advocate for DBED and for my assistance, and I really appreciate Dane for that. In our office, few key people that I want to mention is Don Murata, Kellyanne Yamamoto, Lacey Goshi, and Margaret Liu. They're on the front line holding down the fort every day. We'll start with the introduction of our agencies and divisions. And when I call your names, can you please stand so that I know you're here so I don't have to turn around? Thank you. Dennis Ling with the Administrator of Business Development and Support Division.
Aloha.
The Office of International Affairs. It has no staff, but you can direct your questions to Dennis Ling. The next office is the Executive Officer of the Land Use Commission, which today sitting in for Dan Orendecker is Scott Derrickson.
Aloha.
Okay. Giorgio Skinner, the Administration of Creative Industries Division.
Aloha.
David Zinking, Administrator of the Foreign Trade Zone. Daniel Nahoki, Interim President and CEO of the Hawaii Tourism Authority. Stephen Wells, sitting in for Mark Glick, Chief Energy Officer of the State of Hawaii Energy Office. Mark's not able to be here today, so Stephen will be answering questions for the Energy Office. Dr. Eugene Thien, Administrator of the Research and Economic Analysis Division.
Aloha.
Gwen Yamamoto Lau, Executive Director of the Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. For ASO, sitting in today is Stephen Sung for the Administrative Services Office. Oh, sorry. Okay, so Lucy Pascual is here as well. She was on the way last year. Strategic Broadband Coordinator for the State Broadband Digital Equity Office is Chung Tang. Lori Moore, Executive Director of the Military and Community Relations Office. That's our newest division. Dori Palkovich, Administrator of the Small Business Regulatory Review Board. Sandy Kanimori, who is sitting in for Damon Mateo, Executive Director of the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. Mary Alice Evans, Director of the Office of Planning and Sustainability Development. Laurence Sambaridia, Acting Director of NELHA. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director of the Community and Development Authority.
Yeah.
Dean Minakami, Executive Director of the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation. Wendy Gady, Executive Director of the Agribusiness Development Corporation. And last but not least, I think that's the last one, Ryan Andrews, Stadium Manager. Hope I didn't miss anyone. So we sent you all a whole list of our details, and they get really into the weeds. But what we're going to do today is we're going to share a slide deck so that you can see how that ties into the request that we're going to be making in the budget table. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Deputy Director Wicker to start the slide presentation.
Thank you, Director. Good afternoon, members, Chair Dela Cruz, Chair DeCoit, Vice Chair Morwaki, Vice Chair Wakai. You've been provided our full slide deck. We provided the notes in there. It gives a narrative, a very detailed narrative of our framework and a cadence on how we put together our framework and up to budget requests to get those deliverables. In essence of time, I'm not going to go over every single slide in detail. I will be skipping over, but we can always go back, or if there are questions, I can always refer to that specific slide. Okay. So to begin with our framework, you'll see some consistent slides that we've presented the past 2 years. And that was a lot of the development and putting together our vision. And now we're leading into implementation. So we always refer back to what is the state of Hawaii's economy. And we look for that data from our research economic analysis division to understand that. We also looked at previous studies and reports as well as mandates to give us guidance on our framework. That led us to determine what sectors and industries we need to focus on and how we're going to target those to diversify our economy short-term and long-term, as well as reverse our brain drain through workforce development alignment. Our cradle to career incubation to maturity framework that leads up to implementation and examples of implementation tying into our budget requests. Okay. So the state of our economy. So we looked at several agencies that rank the state of Hawaii, and we consistently rank among the bottom 10 states overall in business and economic environment as evaluated by these multiple entities. The metrics that they use to weight our state include business creation and growth, costs, workforce development, infrastructure development, access to capital, technology and innovation, and the affordability for workforce housing. An assessment of these entities, our strength is a moderate workforce development program. Our weaknesses include high business costs, limited access to finance, underdeveloped infrastructure, and innovation. One key note here is CNBC. And up until 2023, when they weighted all 50 states through 128 different metrics in 10 competitive areas, workforce development was their primary focus. And they weight the states on how well you market that to your development and implementation. Up until 2024, for the first time since 2007, their highest weighted metrics now is infrastructure. So our alignment started with a lot of state mandates. Our economic development and sustainability efforts are guided by a series of legislative mandates and the governor's priorities, all working toward a resilient and diversified economy. These mandates and priorities address critical areas such as food security, energy resiliency, and housing, while aligning the long-term environmental and economic goals. For example, Act 151 in 2019, Food Security and Resiliency, which aims to double Hawaii's food production and increase agricultural exports. It also promotes the Farm to State initiative to integrate locally sourced food into public institutions. Act 175 and 176 from 2021, local food sourcing in school and local procurement benchmarks, respectively. This sets not only Department of Education's mandate to double food production, but also state departments to purchase a percentage of fresh local agricultural products and value-added goods, supporting local ag and processing industries. Act 97 from 2015 and Act 15 from 2018 mandates 100% RPS standards by 2045, as well as committing Hawaii to achieve a net zero emissions by 2045. To operationalize these mandates, DBED set up 2 internal working groups. First, our land use strategy working group to align land use planning with goals for housing, food security, and sustainable development. And our housing strategy internal working group, as we have HHFDC, HCDA, and LUC, as well as OPSD coordinating affordable housing just with DBED alone. These 2 working groups set up the following focus areas with number 1, food security and resiliency. So as you see on the slide here, land use is the number 1 resource all 3 compete for. And we have conflicting mandates and conflicting strategies. So starting with the mandates to double food production, increase farm to school, we were looking at what lands will need to be set aside for both conventional and vertical farming, overlaying the RPS mandate that HSCO did with their projections, and then where does housing go? This not only sets up short-term, but also long-term goals and policy changes. Second was energy stability and resiliency, and third, housing. This also aligns with governor's priorities for affordable housing as the administration aims to construct 13,000 affordable units by 2026. The governor's goals also include climate mitigation and resiliency, and we adopt that in all of our strategic framework throughout our process, as well as First Lady's Feed the Children initiative, Her Child Nutrition, supports improved nutrition for Hawaii's children through locally sourced and nutritious food programs. So our economy continues to evolve through the growth of targeted and emerging industries identified as critical to the state's diversification strategy. These three sectors, carefully analyzed in Research Economic Analysis Division's 2024 Targeted and Emerging Industries Report, represent sectors with the potential to generate high-quality jobs, enhance our competitiveness, and foster economic resilience. So for tech and innovation, we're focused on these four industries: aerospace, advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and energy. And the creative industries division, sector, which also encompasses our culture and heritage, media, fashion and design, and music. And our product development sector, which includes value-add products, food and non-food products, as well as intellectual property. So our incubation to maturity framework. To drive economic diversification and sustainable growth, DBID is implementing a strategic framework focused on four key pillars. These pillars serve as a foundation for aligning our resources, addressing the gaps, and building a resilient economy that supports Hawaii's long-term goals. Pillar 1 includes workforce development, preparing our next generation. Pillar 2, infrastructure, supporting commercialization and growth. 3 is our regulatory environment, creating a business-friendly ecosystem. And 4, with incentives, our capital formation, which fuels our industry growth. In addition, we follow the governor's pillar of climate and resiliency and align and integrate this throughout all of our framework. Our economic future hinges on the ability to expand exports and scale industries that create sustainable and resilient revenue streams. Exporting not only broadens Hawaii's tax base, but also significantly increases tax revenues, enabling our state to reinvest in critical infrastructure, social services, and future-focused initiatives. So a key strategy with our framework in exports is in value-added manufacturing. This enhances local resources and products to command higher market value. And by focusing on value-added industries, it'll help pay for our sustainability and resiliency. We can reinvest the revenues long-term. For example, sectors like food product innovation, aquaculture, and advanced manufacturing represent prime opportunities to maximize our state's unique resources and cultural identity while driving export growth. Manufacturing stands out as a cornerstone for our economic diversification. It is a scalable industry that provides a foundation for growth across multiple sectors. Advanced manufacturing includes technologies paired with support for small and medium-sized enterprises, and it amplifies our capacity to reach and compete in global markets. Workforce development. We've been spent a lot of time in workforce development to understand both what our industries are and working backwards what the skills gap is, and having discussions with P20, UH, and DOE to understand what CT programs they currently have, and then to align the skill sets with the industry. So answering the big question here with workforce development and our cradle to career objective for our State Department, DBID aims to provide a clear answer to students. What is your path after graduation? And DBID acknowledges the fact that 49% of our public school graduates in state do not enroll in college in the first fall after graduation. So our alignment right now for our three sectors includes these CTE pathways. We've identified these and are working alongside with our workforce development coordinator in our department, as well as DOE, to understand where these programs are offered, in which complexes, and then identifying the employer. We do have 2 budget requests targeted to this. We're asking for BED 105, and that's CID. We're asking for 1 permanent program specialist 5. We currently have a temporary position that's federally funded, but that was specific to CID. We're asking for a permanent position to offer department-wide workforce development.
Yeah. If I can just interject a little bit right here, Chair. When we were on Hilo last year or a year and a half ago, you coordinated a site visit, and at that site visit was the Keith Hayashi, and we sat and we met, and since that time, Deputy Director and others in the DOE have been meeting in the communities, and when I say communities, the complex areas, figure out which complex area would be the right place for manufacturing, which complex area would be the right area for film and design and fashion and music. So according to the DOE, that's never happened before, the collaboration of trying to figure out where we put curriculum and how it ties into the big picture with DBID. And we thank you for instigating that in Hilo. And it's it's a path that started and it's a path that we will continue to be on because it's working.
Our second request tied to workforce development, this is a continuation under Act 89, which was passed last year on the Healthcare Workforce Development Program. There were two parts in that act. One was the funding to contract with a private sector, public-private partnership to offer both a glide path and CPN pathway. We administered that under Business Development Support Division. We're asking for year two funding of $1,450,000 to complete year two. The discussion with the contractor, the goal is to get off of subsidy long-term and for the private sector to step in and fund this workforce training. I didn't get a chance to look at the report, but just last week, Friday, data came out on the healthcare industry, and tied to this specific project or this pathway that actually legislature, you folks passed, it did result in a decrease in the gap in the skills, the workforce. So there is positive out from this program. I'll also note that we've been doing site visits at the high school level. So that includes Copley High School, Eva Mackay Middle School, Campbell High School, Waialua High School for the robotics program, Waipahu complex area, as well as a Pearl City complex area, and attending their complex area meetings. We've also done site visits and meetings with Honolulu Community College, UH West Oahu Academy for Creative Media, and Advanced Research Lab at MIC. All of these are tied to one of the three sectors. We are being resourceful as much as we can. So some pathways currently right now, there is no ask, which is a huge plus of the state. And for example, advanced manufacturing. There's a big push here from Department of Defense, and this was a site visit that DBED did out a little over a year ago to Oak Ridge Oak Ridge, Tennessee, to their Department of Energy National Lab. Advanced manufacturing plays a huge role in our economy, not just with Department of Defense, but also U.S. Space Force, as well as smaller manufacturer companies. The opportunity here is a training program, short-term with set up with Department of Defense at the Honolulu Community College this summer. They'll be providing equipment to the community college. They'll also be targeting a few high schools to stick in that equipment. So think of it when you tour some of our DOE maker spaces and their 3D printers, as well as the robotics program. Advanced manufacturing is those students learning how to use robotics to create a component or a piece for some of our larger employers here. There's big interest in some of our major employers here with the shipyard, as well as Department of Defense. And they're looking at doing investments in the training side coming out of HCC and UH Manoa, as well as potential a facility which would employ both enlisted as well as civilian jobs on Oahu long-term. We don't have an ET on that, but there's a lot of discussion to develop that facility here. So advanced manufacturing is one of our key industries, both short-term and long-term. Our second is product development. We've toured Waipahu High School's Auto Grow, as well as Waimea High School's Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources pathway. By mapping out these comprehensive pathways and securing the necessary resources, we'll ensure that students like those at those two campuses can transition into meaningful careers without barriers. Leeward Community College, if you had the opportunity to tour their Value-Added Product Development Center, it became a great example on what we can do to help address a gap in creating small to medium businesses. Lastly, we do have an ask, and I'll go over this a little later, to help finance a Creative Lab Innovation Center. So as we focused on the value-added product innovation, we completed a study under House Concurrent Resolution 184, which passed out last session. We just completed the report. And that industry for fashion and design, as well as music, has a similar request and similar issues where they need specialized equipment, warehousing, and facilities, not only to establish, but scale up. So we're seeing a trend here in a couple of our cottage industry manufacturing.
Yes, and it's as important as we possibly can be, because you see with workforce development that some restaurants and businesses throughout the state close one day a week. It never used to happen before. And a lot of the calls back to us is we need help finding employees. So in taking it to the next step with DBED, because of all of the attached agencies that we have, we've collaborated with all of these workforce development entities that are out there, from the nonprofits to the university to the chamber, and really focusing on how we can get everybody on the same page so that the community we know how much it costs for college, and some kids will spend their parents' money going to college, and they really don't know what they want to do. So some of these programs that we think we are connecting here, or we know we are connecting here, will give the kids the opportunity to work in a industry that they can, get paid for and not burden their parents, because college is expensive. So we know that that's something that we're focused on. So we work with the Workforce Development Council, with Kiala Peters from the Chamber, with Julie Morikawa and Climb High, and many others, to collaborate a message from all of whether it's healthcare, the trade unions, that there is this path that you can go and search, that these are opportunities in the state for your child who may be looking for a job after school.
Implementation. So being resourceful where we can, we have gone back to review prior studies, reports, and plans to develop our framework, such as the Hawaii State Planning Act under Chapter 226. It's undergoing a comprehensive review to align with current and emerging issues, ensuring effective direction for the state's future development. So last session under Act 36, it called for a 2-year plan. We are asking for one temporary position in this budget under BLD 144 for Special Plans Project Coordinator to help us complete Phase 2 of Act 36. We've also looked at the 2023 statewide comprehensive economic development strategy, which is also an effort with the counties. We looked at the 2010 Rural Economic Development Report, where it identified challenges in our rural communities, such as economic difficulties post-sugar industry, and explore strategies to create jobs while retaining rural character and lifestyle, retaining our sense of place. And concurrently and ongoing, the Hawaii Economic Recovery and Resilience Project, which through data-driven strategies will support our economic diversification and enhance the state's ability to withstand external shocks, such as we've seen with the Maui wildfire and COVID. In addition to the temporary position under BLD 144, we're asking for 3 full-time permanent positions to help us with the planning and coordinating so we can finish these plans and transition them to our sister agencies for implementation. We're leveraging our attached agencies for short-term and long-term economic diversification. And here's a map out of how we see several of our state agencies through their projects and statutory powers and bringing regional economic development across the state, whether it's ADC, to do agriculture or aquaculture, as well as NELHA on the Big Island with energy and aquaculture, and everything in between with value add, energy, and aerospace. One of the key requests you're going to hear from us is for innovation centers through the Food and Product Innovation Network, as well as through the Creative Lab Innovation Center. And we found that being committed to supporting businesses at every stage of their development by providing tailored resources, expertise, and incentives through innovation centers will help them not only anchor, but scale up. These centers serve as hubs for fostering innovation and economic diversification, empowering our entrepreneurs and businesses to succeed in local and global markets. So these 4 phases include ideas to early stage trials, growth as you scale up from trials to the market, commercialization through market validation and testing, and then the export phase, expanding beyond Hawaii. And through this, we've been able to align our incentives for an ecosystem that help leverage our grants and our loan programs.
Dane, how many innovation centers do we have throughout the state, not just run by the state?
Not just run by the state. I would have to get back to you on the private side. I'm aware of 2, they're co-working spaces. The capacity is innovation. I would have to get back to that. But Sandy, do we have? Do we know true innovation centers across the state, what that inventory is? Mainly co-working. They lack the specialized equipment that we're seeing that we put in through.
I think the last time we checked, there were like 15 innovation centers throughout the state, different innovation centers, including University of Hawaii. Shouldn't DBED know what all these innovation centers, what they're doing, what's the overlap?
That's a very good point. We do know there's Advanced Research Lab in Manoa, but they sit under UH, but they are DOD funded and they do primary work for DOD.
It's like a ghost town from what I understand over there. But isn't there a competition for funds, startup funds for a lot of these innovation centers? So I think DBED should really have a handle
Oh,
on
did that
all these
thing.
innovation centers, and is it?
Slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
We
So-
will, yeah, thank you for the comment and the question, Senator.
Yeah,
We will
props.
get that inventory and align it with our priorities and see where we can adapt with them and, you know, make and not duplicate some of the stuff that's already happening.
Thank you.
Dane,
Yes.
can you also figure out, because you also have incubators that are also run by the state, how many incubators that are there that when you go food innovation, right, you go from beginning to end, you have existing incubators, I believe, under the state as well. And then I know that you guys are working with one of them to doing food innovation.
I'll have to get back to you on that one
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you. So building off of a statewide strategic plan for the innovation pipeline, we do have a request in BED 170 for 350,000 to contract with the University of Hawaii Community Design Center to do planning for the Food and Product Innovation Network on the neighbor islands. We have seen successes in this facility that opened up just last March. 8 companies will be attending the Fancy Food Show this month, as well as 3 companies going through a cohort partnered with the University of Hawaii have now secured sales contracts with local grocers, including ABC stores and Whole Foods. So without the proper equipment, learning how to be efficient, as well as reducing the risks and costs by the state offering these, they were able to scale up and expand their cottage industry business, their value-added business. So in Central Oahu, we have a proof of concept going on with the Agribusiness Development Corporation. And up on the screen here is a site plan of a 40-acre plot under Agribusiness Development Corporation. But this site is becoming a statewide plan that we can scale up or scale down. And we talk a lot about resiliency. And what we found through the planning on this is that these facilities are not only addressing challenges that were brought forth to us by our small to medium businesses.
Where is that located?
This is in Central Oahu, specifically Whitmore. These facilities are also helping us address resiliency. So for example, the FPIN facility, which is the Entrepreneur Product Innovation Center, is the commercialization facility that can help the small to medium businesses scale up by renting this space from the state to build their product. It also can tie into the high pressure processing to expand their shelf life so they can reach exports off our shores, and then through cold storage to store their products. These are challenges that the private sector have brought to us and that we're addressing. The second would be the regional kitchen to help the DOE achieve its mandate to double, to do their 30% by 2030. But in the flip of the switch and addressing economic diversification, we can use these facilities in the time of a natural disaster where the regional kitchen can prepare meals, extend the life, stored in its regional kitchen, in the cold storage, and then we can distribute to the different schools who turn into shelters. These are two,
Is this a pilot project?
it's
or
not a pilot, but it's
is-
becoming,
You can expand it to the neighbor island.
yes, my next slide works, we'll have an ask to do this on the Big Island. This this creates 2 new pathways for our agriculture industry. 40% of their product does not go to market. They just dispose it. So through value add, that's a new market number 1, and through DOE to help them achieve their mandate, they can take the off grades. That's new market number 2. So we are asking in our budget for 1.3 million to look at just under 42 acres, about 40 acres, a parcel in Kohala to revitalize this former plantation town and replicating the same site plan that we did in Central Oahu. We can scale up to scale down on the immediate needs for the value-added producers and the ag industry in North Kohala.
Is this already, we already acquired or
No, we have a budget request to acquire that, 1.3 million under BED 170.
Back to the slide.
Yes,
You guys know that that area has limited water supply. Yeah?
we did a site visit just last month. Yep. Another challenge with our ag industry is the small animal producers. They don't have the adequate facilities to process. The state slaughterhouse in Kalaeloa is at full capacity with the beef industry. We have a hog industry that's dwindling, but we are meeting with them and they're in dire need of a state processing facility or a processing facility. We do have in our budget under BED 170 a request for 4 million to do land acquisition as well as planning and design for a state small animal processing facility. Not only will this help the small animal producers all the way from the Leeward Coast up through Central Oahu, north, all the way to Kualoa Ranch, as we spoke on Kualoa Ranch. This will also feed into DOE's regional kitchen to help them with the mandate of 30% of local procurement by 2030. Another critical investment, as you mentioned, Senator Inouye, is irrigation. So in our budget, and this is a quick study we looked at from 2007 was the last study we could find on record. So we're using this as an example. Waihawa irrigation system in 2007 had an economic impact of 85 million, generating almost 29 million in household revenue and saving providing 980 jobs. There's also a small contribution to the neighbor islands of Kauai, Maui, and the Big Island through this irrigation system. We do have a budget request under BED 170. We have 3 requests for irrigation. We're asking for 6.47 million for Kekaha irrigation improvements, 3 million for land acquisition in Lihui tied to those Kekaha irrigation system, and 9.2 million for infrastructure improvements on Oahu, including the acquisition of a few wells owned by Dole Food Company. We have a $500,000 request. We were looking at a parcel in Kalailoa next to the Kalailoa Film Studios. So going back to that resolution we completed the study on, there is a need for specialized equipment that they can't find, or we don't have that facility currently for fashion design, jewelry, and music. That was reduced. You'll notice that our original request was 14 million. The governor has asked us to explore current state inventory land. So we're in discussion. We've talked briefly with HCDA and we're looking at what DLNR may have for this parcel or for this innovation center.
Dane,
Yes.
Dane, what is the state post-harvest facility construction?
That's the high pressure processing. So that's the remaining balance to finance the full construction of the high pressure processing facility,
Okay.
HPP.
The 1.8. Thank you.
So I mentioned earlier about our incubation to maturity framework as a 3-phase approach: research and development, market and scale up for new products, and then expand and export. So we're leveraging our current ecosystem. So with the facility from Leeward Value Added Product Development Center, our business development support division has done workforce training, workforce seminars, and they've been utilized in places such as the convention center. With the Leeward Value Added Product Development Center, we're able to do workshops on site and virtually in partnership with Leeward to get into those new businesses as well as existing businesses who want to refine their product at an early phase. As they transition out of the Leeward facility or a neighboring, like for example, the Maui Innovation Center, they'll come into the agribusiness entrepreneur product innovation centers. This is the commercialization. So you go from education to commercialization. Through this transition, this is where you learn and you leverage the Made in Hawaii or the Hawaii Made brand. The goal here is to get them ready for exports. Phase 2 is where you fail. But this is where we're able to reduce the risk and the time because we're able to offer the facilities and the specialized equipment for those businesses. If successful and there is a demand for your product, as you move out to phase 3, which is private sector, either you're going to lease brick and mortar from the private, or if the state provides it, commercial warehouse space from the state, you can leverage HTDC's SBR program, which is a federal matching program. The manufacturing assistance program, which many are familiar with. We did a visit with you folks to Hawaii Ulu Co-op. They use the MAP program to get their reefer as well as some processing equipment. And then through business development support divisions, CBED small business loan program. And as you go phase 3, if you decide you want to go to international markets, you can tap into the foreign trade zone benefits as well as the high step program. So through this incubation to maturity, we're able to align the current incentives and really leverage the resources we get from the legislature. Energy stabilization. So as I mentioned earlier, Act 97 with the RPS mandate. Last session, the legislature provided us 6 million. That funding was reduced to 3 million. So 6 million would have got us to phase 2. in this map of a geothermal framework to deliver a plan and cost for 50 to 100 megawatt project. Our focus is on the Big Island. Hawaii State Energy Office did receive Department of Energy funds. They're focused on Maui and Oahu to do some exploration there. With the reduction of funds, we will be able to move forward and complete phase one. Phase one would include community engagement and the development of a plan to bring forth a 50 to 100 megawatt project. Not only is it key to look at a firm base load to help us achieve the mandate. In the previous slides, you heard a lot about export, which leads into manufacturing, whether it's advanced manufacturing to provide products here or for export. If we don't stabilize our energy costs, manufacturing will not pencil out. So geothermal is going to be very important for the manufacturing and the diversification of our economy.
Can I add, early 2000, there was a bill and I think it passed, and maybe you can have somebody check with the Office of Energy that there was a bill to not do an undersea cable for transmission of geothermal. You remember that with Russ Baker? Yeah. So I think, yeah, Carol and I remember. So there is a bill already banning any undersea cable. So just check, because if there is, then maybe we'll have to go and revisit that measure to lift the ban. Just for your information. Okay.
Thank you, Senator. Will do. Okay.
Dean,
Yes,
that's
Senator.
the question. If I heard you correctly, you're saying the SCA State Energy Office is going to look at geothermal on Oahu and Maui, and then DBED is going to look at it on the Big Island. Why are we sectioning it off like that?
Okay, so they, with their funds, we wanted to coordinate where we're not duplicating. So they're going to strategically use the funds they received on those two counties, and then we can use the funds we received to look at exploration on the Big Island. So we can maximize the exploration that way.
Okay, I just always thought the Big Island was the lowest hanging fruit. I mean, if they were going to dig, you don't have to dig that deep on the Big Island, but much deeper digs on Oahu and Maui. Okay.
Thank you, Senator. So one of our last slides here is our housing. As I mentioned, 13,000 units by 2026. So through OPSD and the TOD Council, HHFDC and HCDA, we're on track by 2026 to provide 8,755 of those 13,000 units. But moving forward, we still need infrastructure in some key areas, as well as the continuation of support for our rental housing revolving fund. That includes funding for our tier 2, which are for those people who make just above the affordable amount, but cannot move, just make under the amount to buy workforce housing. So we'll be asking for budget requests under BED 144 OPSD to help us with the continuation of the TOD Council and their planning initiatives. We'll be asking for rental housing revolving fund tier 1, tier 2, as well as dwelling unit revolving fund under BED 160. And under BED 150 HCDA, we're asking for funding for infrastructure in the Iwilei Kapalama area, as well as funding for phase 2 UH West Oahu. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the director.
Yeah, and just to close up the housing portion of it, because some of the details are still being worked out. The Maui legislators don't want you to think that we're not focusing on housing on Maui, which we are in a working group. So as we get more of those details and more of the requests for specific funding, but a lot of it is coming from Hawaii Community Foundation, as well as others trying to figure out next steps for infrastructure so that developers can develop. And that is something that's in the works right now. But that is our presentation, Chair and Vice Chair. Thank you for the opportunity, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, why don't we go over table 6? So you already outlined the first 2 items. I'm not sure if anybody has questions on those 2. If not, you can go to the third one, which is adding 1 permanent position
Yes.
and funds.
Film permitting, that one.
Yeah.
Can call up Georgia, but this position, so last session, the budget bill transferred a position out of CID over to HTDC for aerospace. That was a warm body position. That position was responsible for the permitting process. So we're currently operating without that position, and we need that capacity. So we're asking for that position, a new position to restore that. If I'm correct, Georgia, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Yes, this was the position 44000, the film industry development specialist focused on permitting. It is the lead film permitting person for the film office. 2 people are required to manage the statewide film permits for the film industry. We are down to 1 currently. We did have an 89-day hire in that position. We no longer do, and it was transferred. So the reason to reinstate this is critical in 2 ways. 1, to provide the correct staffing that we need to be able to support the industry here. And remember, it's not just people from offshore, it's our local industry as well, which is growing and significantly. The other is that there's an online system that this person is to manage, which has not been launched yet for film permitting, to streamline it. And unfortunately, we do only have 1 person right now. This was posted by DHERD initially. We had 30 applicants for the position. When it was transferred, we then had to let the applicants know we were no longer able to fill it.
Okay. I know there were concerns the last couple sessions about the organization of the division. And so we had a bill to create a whole separate commission.
Yes.
Have you guys thought about how you're going to reorganize before we even
Yes.
consider look at this?
Yes, we have. We've had internal discussions on that, and I think it's something that we want to look at for this session. There is no active bill currently from the administration for it. There are things we can do within, I think, our jurisdiction under the director to be able to really create a much more vibrant and reactive.
Yeah,
Program.
there were concerns that the permitting
Mhm.
was limited to just 1 person
Yes,
versus if you have at least a commission, 3 people are looking at it, and hopefully you can take the
and expedite.
politics out of
Yes.
it.
And I think better integration with our state departments because we are only the facilitator. So it is important for us to also look to where the staffing needs might be in DLNR and other DOT and other segments. But I think a structure for that, which we've talked about, is very important to move forward with. So I would agree.
Okay, well, we're gonna, hopefully there's a vehicle then. Go ahead.
So I've heard that there've been inconsistent application of tax credits as well, that we've lost productions, big productions that we need in order to not only generate workforce development, but generate jobs. So can you address that and how you've restructured so that you can address that, and more coordination with DOTAX, knowing what the criteria are so it can be speedier done? I heard audits take a long time.
Yes, the first part of your question, I didn't hear quite all of it.
So if we're talking about reorganization
Yes.
in order to keep productions here and not lose them, what are you doing? What have you done?
Yes, and you also mentioned the tax credit.
Well, do the reorganization, and we'll talk
Second.
about the tax credit.
So the film tax credit is managed by a team of 2 people that are doing an excellent job. I think the director and deputy are aware of the high level of performance there. We have the online system now, which has expedited those programs. However, there are delays in some of the people being paid out. I think that's what you're referring to, and that is a DOTAX function. They would have to respond to that. I know that they have had some staffing challenges in their audit division, and so that is something that we are addressing with them. But it's their jurisdiction in terms of
So have you
payouts.
coordinated in terms of what those standards are so that
Oh,
there
yes.
isn't, that they're getting mixed messages, one from DOTAX, one from DBED?
Well, I'm not aware of mixed messages other than, but I definitely will look into it. We coordinate very closely with the Department of Taxation through both the director, deputy director, and their rules
Yeah.
specialist. So I think the critical question is, what are the other things, including what you mentioned, that are impeding the ability to attract and keep productions here? Most importantly, our film industry in general, but also television and streaming series. Those things are very important because they keep us working all through the year. So if there are issues, I'd love to talk to you additionally about what you have heard from the community and what needs to be addressed. But for us, the turnaround time in our shop is stellar. And we turn around quickly and we respond quickly. And that's headed by David Kale'i-Holokai, who's here with us today.
Yeah, but we still need a plan because we talked about it in the last several sessions, above the line, below the line, vendors, all of those type of things. And I don't think we've reached the type of progress that we need to make.
I would agree with you, Chair. But from the last year's info brief, there was a very heavy focus on the film office. So from the time I got to DBED till today, we are discussing all of the different options, trying to coordinate and manage some of the things that didn't happen before.
So when is that plan going to be done so that we can have a discussion on it? Because talking to industry people and industry leaders, they've compared Hawaii to other destinations. And the example they gave me about New Zealand, where New Zealand's tax credit requires the production to hire a local co-producer. And so once you have a local co-producer, they know the lay of the land, they know local companies, local vendors. The guy coming in from out of state doesn't know that. So they know when they want to get a job done, they hire their colleagues and people they've worked with in the past and bringing them out of state. What they found was after several years, the co-producer that's local builds capacity, and then you no longer need the guy from the mainland coming in because we built capacity as a requirement of all these through all these co-producers. But I don't see that kind of, yeah.
It's not happening as fast as we'd like, Chair. And I can tell you, like, Rescue High Surf is a great example of local people, local production. And one of the coordinators for the production is sitting in this office. So it's local.
No, but it has to be codified.
Yeah.
It has to be, because it can't be whoever the person is doing permitting, who we don't, none of us know. It has to be something that's more cultural, and so that we can support that.
We agree 100%. Some of the concerns were constitutional stuff, but we agree 100% that it should be local production.
That's good.
There should
You
be
can
a
agree.
culture.
I'm glad you agree. We just got to get it done. Because we've been talking about this for quite some time. I mean, how many site visits are we going to do to Diamond Head and all these other places? And we're not moving the needle fast enough. We built that facility out at West Oahu. I'm not sure if it's even used enough. I mean,
Yes. We just came from a site visit from the educational facility, and Dane and myself and some of our staff also. It is unfortunate without positions in that facility. They do have a challenge in being able to hold classes there, but also the use of it for industry.
well, and nobody follows up on the tax credit. In the sense where they get the tax credit, if they're supposed to do certain things, you know, at one of the chair's hearings, the person who was there, I'm not going to say their name, said that they don't have time to check up on it.
Yeah, I'd like to know what that's exactly referring to, because
No, you can wait. You can watch her hearing from last year
Okay.
when you had it was all recorded.
All right, well, I can tell you that there is follow-up from the tax office, from our office and our tax credit unit. But also, as a director said, Rescue High Surf is an example of 90% local hires. And overall, we have a track record of obviously less offshore hires than local hires. But to your point, you want to see a plan?
Yeah,
You wanna be able
that's
to-
not the norm. So you guys
Right.
are highlighting that anecdotally,
Yes.
and that's great. But then how is it going to be 100%?
Right. So the 100% would be to require something within the HRS 23517, the tax credit law, to
Yes.
require the
So
producer to
why don't
model
you
what is
propose
new.
that?
So, yes, I will work with our subject matter chair on that.
Do you have a list of a producer who have asked for tax credit, and a list of who was given tax credit, so we can see what are we
Yes,
losing?
It's
so
part
that
of
we
our
can compare
regular annual
what you're
report, Senator.
doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we can know what you're actually doing and what are you bringing in or losing.
Okay, well, I am happy to give you that
Yeah, because we
information.
could
It's
get
something
that
that's
later, yeah.
circulated to the legislature through the leadership. And we have provided that for every year that the tax credit, it gives you the exact name of the production
And
now.
have you
since-
followed up of why we're losing? Not accepting it.
Yeah, Senator, we will get that.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we may not want some productions. I mean, if they're going to take advantage of Hawaii and Hawaii's not going to get something out of it, then why would we want it? We can't be that desperate.
Yeah, we're not. We have to follow the Hawaii administrative rules and the law. And I can tell you that there aren't people that we don't get the choice to turn them away unless they don't qualify and unless they don't have those metrics. And now I think the main thing is what we're hearing from the legislature is being able to have a hiring quota So that, for example, you could add something like add 5% to the current hire of the 22% and the 27% that are now offered from Oahu to the neighbor islands, and add that 5% lift based on 85% or more hires. And that's one way to codify it.
So Georgia,
Yeah.
I believe it's one of the bills that we have now
Yes.
in our possession.
Correct.
And I just wanted to say that far from what it was before, a lot of the questions that we've asked, we did have challenges on the permit part, which we're still getting challenges because of constitutional issues. But if you could do a write-up on what we've done, I mean, what happened before to where you are today and send it to us, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
Well, we got to see where we're headed though. I mean, so what other changes do we have to make so we can become way more competitive and build local capacity?
Okay. Ready?
Sure.
If you can add in the ICANN part and everything else that got added to the training, starting from where we just fell short of everything from, like we had Sea Rider production and then now we expanded off by bringing, can you like just put that all in writing for us in
Yes.
layman's terms, as simple as possible?
But
Yeah.
Writer's production wasn't a result of DBID. That
No,
was
no.
because
No, but it's an example of that.
yeah,
and
that
then
should have been a
ICANN
result
bring-
of DBID,
Yeah.
but it was not.
What is that? Chair?
Something like Sea Rider's production.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
that's where going back to what the deputy said,
Exactly.
having this bigger plan to see how everyone
Right. And I think a big-
is coordinated and achieves a bigger goal for us.
exactly. I think that's why the plan that's been presented today is important. And
Well, we don't
We're
have a
very
plan.
active-
You presented one budget item.
what?
We don't have a plan for you to
No,
present here.
I'm talking about the value add comparison to developing local talent, because that addresses the questions that you're asking.
Senator Favela.
Chair, couple of things. I guess you're not understanding what Senator De La Cruz is saying. We're supposed to get the permitting on neighbor islands, all the neighbor islands, everybody together to streamline this permitting to get it forward. Two, you guys talking about something that you guys did not do. So the lifeguard movie, they decided that they was gonna hire local, produce local and done local because people were not sure people that was involved demanded. It didn't come from the film industry, it didn't come from you guys. What we are talking here is we want you guys to take the lead. You guys are taking credit for something you guys didn't do. They did it on their own, and don't tell me how I know, because you guys know I know, all
I
right?
recognize that. Senator.
Second thing, what did we do? You guys knew way ahead of time that we was gonna lose NCIS and CBS. What did we do to try to keep them here? Nothing. Then with all the equipment and everything like that that was taken, saying that we never have enough equipment and all that, we did nothing to save it. So I just like to know what the director, what you guys was doing to save CBS here. Because when we had put this up, Jimmy, before you say anything, before you guys even was gonna lose them, you guys was notified way in advance that we needed to save them. Nothing was put in. The leaders from CBS told us that nothing was really that we wanted to save CBS. Nothing was told to intensify them to even stay here. So we lost a lot of production under this filming. I understand you guys saying you guys have no staff and all of that. But what are we going to do to not only attract people here to come here and film, like what the senator said, so we get local talent, that we can have local producers, local movers. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Even though we're talking about other productions, I'm telling you, those guys did it on themselves because I was very much on when they was doing the production. I was helping them with certain things on certain meetings, but it never had ever come from a direction from here. Again, you was talking about permitting. How are you going to permit anybody if we do not have any industries thinking about coming here? Second, the production up in Kona, we still have foreigners up there running every single union equipment and everything, and still yet not being addressed. None of you guys went up there and addressed the fact that Fantasy, whatever island, never even had only 1%. And he was a teamster, I contracted to this company to hire all mainland guys to run the equipment. Again, this is the same thing that the senator is saying. Why is it not being stopped? You guys was notified before we had got you guys back in here, had the issues with Donnie Dawson and all that. You guys was taking care of that. Still yet is not taken care of. They're under what, fourth season, fifth season, and not one local guy or one. So can you guys, can you, go ahead. I was waiting too long, so sorry. But
Hear what they have to say.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions in that. I will try to address them as I remember them. So as far as what we did with NCIS, did we know that they were leaving? We didn't know until the entire production knew, which at that point, what they wanted was an increase in the tax credit. We couldn't do that. I mean, it comes from what the legislature gives us. And I will tell you that, you know, in this committee hearing and in Senator DeCoite's committee, you guys have been very, very helpful as far as, you know, increasing the credit, but it's a legislature. So we weren't able to take more money to give more incentives to a production that was leaving. So that's to answer the first question. The second question about the Big Island production, I've met with Kevin numerous times, and I know in the beginning, he talked to me about that specific production. I too, right now, am not aware that it's still happening. So it was not brought to my attention. I apologize for not knowing, Senator, but I am not aware that they are still filming there and that they're not using union work. Now, when it comes to the permits and the union's notification, we sat down in numerous meetings with Georgia and David, who's now doing the tax credit. And we made sure that whenever a production comes in, that the notification, if they are going to apply for the tax credit, the notification is sent to all of the unions that this is happening. And then it's incumbent upon whichever unit it is to contact the production with the information, contact information on there, that we are here and we are aware that you are coming, and we are whatever union it is, Teamsters, HTA, whichever the different unions are. So we certainly put that as part of the process, and I'm assuming we're still doing that, right?
Yeah, in a couple of different ways.
And it wasn't,
Tax credit especially. Now that they're.
and that's what the discussion was. I think part of it was in your office, Senator, is that we didn't have a consistent structure of notification. And we have that now. If you're going to take the tax credit, then you better be informing the unions. And we made that very, very, very clear. And so that answers the second question. As far as, you know, my situation, me personally, this committee made it very clear that you had a lot of concerns with the film office. And you can ask Georgia, you can ask anyone in the film office. I spent a lot of my time working with them, as well as Deputy Director Wicker, going through why would we do this when we could have done that. And so I agree, Senator Chair, with what you said as far as Hawaii being in the forefront, our people in the industry. And it's taken a while for us to get to some of these places, but yes, we need to codify it. We need to work out what the
Statutory language.
Yeah, the constitutional issues are too. And we agree. We're not disagreeing. We 100% agree.
Senator Kim.
Can you finish?
I just want, so I understand you're saying about the CBS.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what was the conversation? Because the conversation, yeah, they wanted to have more tax credits. So if you told CPS, you was gonna wait till the legislation come back in and ask them if we could, again, modify it, so we could have kept them here. We didn't do that.
Right.
Go ahead. I mean, that's just the question.
And thank you, Senator, for the question. I think that it's important to know that it was a surprise, not only to the cast, but also to us, right? I called the head of Liz Miller, who is actually head of the CBS production planning department.
Yes.
How can we save it? What can we do? What is possible? And she said, unless this tax credit changes, and we weren't in session. So that was one issue, as Jimmy said, it's really up to the legislature for us to float that. We do have some modifications that we've discussed with subject matter chair. So we do hope that that will, come through for this session. The other is that it's really important to look at things like the Good Jobs Challenge, which is now a Good Jobs Hawaii program, the number of production assistants, which I know we have certain opinions about, right? But production accounting, it's a need area. We put 12 people through various programs that are now working, but there's no business. And I want to share with the committee what the complication of this is, that the U.S. has lost an enormous amount of production due to the contraction of the business itself, the issues that have arisen because of the cumulative effect of the pandemic, on top of the Writers Guild strikes. And the minute that our entertainment labor unions, IATSE and our labor union for Teamsters were, having their difficulties negotiating their contracts, then most of the production, it was an exodus from the US to foreign countries. Now we have to get that back. So we have to try doubly hard to position ourselves, which is why I hope we can get something working together with the legislature this session to help codify what needs to be happening, and also to fulfill some of the needs that I think were discussed, especially with Native Hawaiian content, and ways to be able to help develop that in a more equitable way with both investment and also some other elements of the tax credit itself. I will not claim credit for what the rescue high surf, that was just an example. You're 100% right. They absolutely did the best they can. Now we are fighting to keep them for season 2, and the same thing with Chief of War. So those are the things that we're currently working on, but with a very, very limited capacity.
Senator Kim.
I'm going to go back, and you talked about the Academy of Creative Arts Media at West Oahu that you folks said you went and visited. So my understanding that when we've gone, that's been closed. It's a ghost town there. And I'm not sure how many jobs have actually been created since we've put in that facility. Are we aware?
So you're correct, Senator. They're not utilizing that facility to its capacity at all. And that's because they don't have, when we toured it, they don't have positions to bring in or run the rooms or the studio for productions.
How many years old is this facility?
That I do not know, Senator.
Approximately? Okay, so since we've been here and since we visited and since we've seen it, like a ghost town and nobody there, they've not come in and told us that. And I understand that Manoa, the creative media arts there, cinema arts program, they split apart because they've had difficulty dealing with the academy, that the facility is not being made open for them on times when they need to be there. And so it's like, what are we doing to coordinate? We spend all this money and we think that, arts and creative media and all of that is so important. And yet we have this facility sitting there. What's happening to it? I mean, we give a lot of money to the program. My understanding is Chris Lee awards $50,000 a year to International Film Festival. Where's all the money going? Have we done any kind of audit?
Senator, no, we haven't. But I would say, just like the studio at the university at Manoa, they have a film and theater class there. It's totally separate from our purview. So
yes, I know it's separate from your
but we can-
purview, but as a state DBED, and we're working on film, like you went and visited, are you folks being more proactive in how we coordinate so that we can get jobs out of that? I mean, otherwise
Yes.
everybody's got silos, and then
Thank-
what's happening?
Thank you, Senator Kim, for the question. A couple of things. Yes, the site visit reaffirmed that there are still the challenges of hiring people there, to which I like to be a problem solver. We talked to the Vice Chancellor during our tour and said, how can we bring in experts from the industry and utilize the
So
facility?
you didn't talk to the Chancellor?
No, the Vice Chancellor was with us that day, but I
Was the
have.
Chancellor even there?
No, but I have reached out to the Chancellor, and we did ask, and we still are pursuing the idea of using the facility for the training for good jobs, because it's under UH anyway. So why not utilize the facility if there aren't any classes happening?
Or what did they say?
The Chancellor was open to it.
So they're not willing to let Manoa students use it, but they're more open to letting you
Yeah.
use it.
I have a backstory on the Manoa students from the School of Cinematic Arts, which has undergone a name change based on faculty input. And that
Because
is,
of the,
yes.
we know why.
Yes, so we did DBED did step in and assist those students because they needed a space to film and they could not pay the $10,000 amount that they were quoted. Initially, I believe that came down.
Quoted by West Oahu. So we're charging, West Oahu is charging Manoa to use the facilities that the state paid for.
And I think the value of both programs can't be understated. I mean, overstated, excuse me. It's really important that both of them coexist, but this is an issue that I think we need to work with DBED and Creative Industries, take the lead to work with the university to fix this challenge. I don't, and I'm sorry, that's the number that I heard from the students from School of Cinematic Arts from Manoa. So we did help them. They were very willing to pay a nominal fee to use the Entrepreneur Sandbox creative space that we made just for this purpose of local filmmakers having a studio to work in.
But think about this, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, you know, we put so much value, we put so much money in tax credits, we want to attract, we have Sea Rider program that had been such a good job. We try to duplicate it, we put it at West Oahu, we've got something at Manoa, and yet they're all disjointed. And nobody's really looking at it. So how important is film to us?
Yeah.
If they're disjointed, if the very mechanism of the foundation that's going to put the students, that's going to put them in the jobs, how disjointed is it? How are we having vice chancellors and people running around and money's being spent and there's no audit, no nothing? And no wonder we're a mess.
I think there's a lot of findings from Good Jobs and also the HCR 184 that understood.
Create new jobs. We have
Yes.
we have the facilities already there, but no, we got to create a whole new program to get what we decided to do.
We leverage what's there and we make it work, and we'll take that on and we'll make sure that you and the committee get
And trust me,
information.
we're going to hear from on that as well. But as the state entity overseeing economic development and making sure that the jobs get created, you know, that's without that, where's the
That's your
pipeline?
guy, yeah.
And specifically, the film industry falls with us, so.
Well, isn't your, what was the person you said trying to align all of those things?
Our workforce development coordinator.
Yeah, are they work, because it sounds like that's, is,
Thomas He is the person that has been leading our Good Jobs Hawaii Creative Jobs development. He has a wealth of information and has also served the department well in being.
yeah, but kind of going back, so once that's established,
It is. That's,
then like what Senator Kim is saying, then he's not going to, it's different if he calls the chancellor versus the DBED director calls the chancellor.
Correct.
And so to kind of organize everybody,
We will.
you got to leverage the influence of your position.
right. And the data that we've collected.
Senator Fukunaga, oh, you had something.
Just if I may, just to add to the response for Senator Kim. So we did the site visit, so we're not
And you did
recreating
the site visit when?
2 Mondays ago,
Okay, and that's the only time you've done a site visit of
a
the
physical site visit.
Yeah, is that the first time you've ever done a site visit of the physical?
Oh, in your
Not-
current position.
In my current position, yes, because
Right.
I've gone there before.
But in
Yeah.
the history of DBED, anybody looked at the facilities?
My 5th or 6th time.
Oh, and nothing's changed since all of that time you've gone over. Okay.
Okay, so we went there to look because based off of HCR 184, so we're not creating similar facilities and bringing the same equipment. We went to UH West Oahu. We can work with UH West Oahu to feed in students from Sea Rider, Campbell High School as an opportunity because there is a rate card for the open access for the non-student. But the facilities are sitting underutilized because they don't have the faculty position to focus on the film production there. They don't have the service managers or the technical support.
When we built the facility and we gave them, how come?
That's outside, yeah. So we're.
So
would
you
we-
know, there's boxes of equipment still in the box that they ordered, and it's, I don't know how many years old now, that's sitting in boxes.
I can't
Yeah.
answer for UH West
Yeah,
Oahu.
that might be,
But
UH quick.
we're-
I know, but
we
I'm
are-
saying if they went on the site visit, you know?
So to get to that level, to have them utilize the facilities, they needed 5 additional positions. They asked for 14, they told us. This session in their budget, they're asking for 5 specifically for ACM to get the proper people in there so they can start to utilize that facility. And then we can work that pipeline and we're not going to duplicate with our innovation center
Yeah.
on the film side.
Some of that though is, I know West Oahu is a 4-year,
There for you.
but Good Jobs, doesn't that, yeah, community college. So how is that? Is that, because oftentimes the 4-year campuses don't want to participate with, or have programs from the community college at their facility.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't see that pushback at all. I mean, I think they have been receptive.
So
but
they're willing to do CTE certificates and AA degrees at West Oahu?
They
then?
already do early college there, yes.
Yeah, but early college is just us paying for you to go college while you're in high school. I'm talking about actually getting the CTE certificate or AA. Because like we talked about earlier, a lot of the below the line jobs, they don't necessarily need the 4-year degree.
Correct. That's a big part of the data from Good Jobs and the work that we have been
So
doing.
this arrangement with West Oahu, I'm just hoping that you can maintain the CTE and the AA and that it's not going to have to be a bachelor's that's required.
We work closely with Leeward and our whole Leeward Community College also with their media program there.
So let us,
Yeah, you regroup.
and we will
Yeah.
share with you folks.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a joint briefing.
Okay.
Senator Fukunaga.
Okay, I think in DBED's defense, the legislature did adopt legislation in 2022, which changed the way in which some of the production costs were calculated. In the past, some of the costs that were taxed at the wholesale rate, Hawaii is one of the few states that has the general excise tax, was changed to full retail 4%. And so my understanding, I think some of the people that Vice Chair Moriwaki has talked with have also shared with us that many productions are making a concerted effort to wait to see what the Department of Taxation and the legislature is going to do to address that concern. So hopefully, we can all work together to get that, resolved.
Yeah.
And then secondly, with respect to the facilities at ACM, I think one of the things that has sort of fallen through the cracks, and they did request positions early on, when the building was scheduled to be completed, but that request was apparently not forwarded from the campus level. And so this year, it's encouraging that you have 5 positions that are part of the UH budget. So I think, there's a lot of concerns being raised, and I think that's productive. But I think if we, look to see how we can make good use of facilities that are already built,
Yeah.
and we can make sure that everyone can use them, then that's what we really want to accomplish. Thank you.
Yeah, well, last year we had a bill to try to tweak the tax credit to address some issues, but I think you said it failed, yeah, in the house. So the tax credit, we wanted to require more local scores so we can help local musicians so that, they should be using Hawaii songs and Hawaii musicians in our movies, local fashion. I mean, all those type of things should be incorporated into the tax credit.
And I just want to say, add on to that, is that having gone over to West Oahu and see such a ghost town, and that over 63% of the students are doing virtual learning, the concern becomes the facilities that's out there. And so there's been a hesitancy to give positions, to give more to West Oahu when the enrollment is dropping. We don't even know how many students are in creative media arts over there, and to what the need is for these positions. So those are the concerns.
Okay, why don't we move on to the 120,000?
This is for FTZ for forklift replacement. This is in their non-general fund request to replace aging equipment.
Any questions? Okay, no questions. You lucked out.
Count your blessings.
Okay, Convention Center. The 1.9.
I don't have that. I don't have that.
I thought, was this additional funds because I thought last year we funded what we thought was the full amount.
For the roof. Just for the roof.
So this is for Aloha Daniel Naho OPE, interim CEO, Customer Authority.
Aloha.
So this is additional funding to take care of other repairs that are occurring at the same time. Since the convention center will be closed in school year, calendar year 26, we can deal with a lot of the other repairs and maintenance that can happen. Major fixes such as the escalator, painting, fixing the wall. That you all saw that tour with the mold growing on the side of the kitchen walls, etc. We're actually going to look at requesting even more in CIP funding.
What's the status of the roof?
Currently, we just issued the RFP for the construction contract. So the architects have created the plans and the scope of services, and it just went out how many thousand pages of RFP.
But it's on track, Senator, for renovation shutdown in 2026.
What's the target amount for that project?
64 and 60. Well, what we were budgeted to spend is 64 million. Our accountant there says he thinks it might be less, but I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Well, if we did it 10 years ago. And when is how long is the center going to be down for?
About roughly 1 year.
The
1
whole
year.
Calendar year 26.
So that income, we're no income, no.
So, but we can operate on the weekends down and in the exhibition hall. So local events will still continue to occur as we do some of that. It's just the major events up in the meeting spaces and in the main ballroom.
As you know, the decision had to be made because all of the work that's going to be upstairs, the hammering and all of that would create problems for the conventions that are there. So, just to not have to deal with that, that's why we went with the shutdown and expedite as soon as possible. So we don't have to work around people that are having their conventions there.
Yeah, had we done it when we projected the cost for the Hawaiian Music Dance Museum and the roof, it was going to be 64 million for all of it. And they said it was too much. And here we are today, 64 million only for the roof.
Senator Elefante.
As a follow-up to that, for the 1.97 million, can you provide the committees with a breakdown of what your projects will be for maintenance and repair?
Yes, we can send that into the committee.
Okay,
It's all
great.
budgeted out.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just a follow-up. So with the 1.9 million, while we're under renovation, is there any other anything else that got to be fixed up while we're under renovation on that portion of it? Because I would hate to stop it again to do another renovation that we can take care of now.
So
And what does that cost?
Actually, we estimate now, working with the convention center management, that is maybe up to 40, we're going to request $41 million in overall projects, accelerate them all in calendar year 26 and get them all completed, all the painting, and that way will not impact future events going forward.
Okay, thank you. Senator Wakai.
For the 1 year when the convention center is going to be closed, what's going to happen to the people who, work there for operations?
So that's part of the work that we're doing. We're trying to create enough work as well to keep them employed in certain functions that they do have skills in.
So like you have maintenance crews that are there,
Yeah,
and they're
right.
not going to have anything to do for a year, right?
Well, they're going to be integrated into some of these construction projects and maintenance projects that we're moving forward into calendar year 26. In our original plans, we had them spread out over the course of we have our 6-year plan of CIP maintenance programs, but we want to pull it all up front into calendar year 26, keep them employed, as well as get all of the work out of the way so that we can start with the fresh new center going forward.
Okay, let's move on to HTA reimbursement, BNF, BED 113.
That's 11, yeah.
So the 11 million on there is a bookkeeping correction. In the beginning of the fiscal year of 25, BNF had to fund the 11 million for the convention center because in the creating of the books in our new general funded accounting system, we had to actually borrow the money. So we're returning the money from the special fund to put it back into what was borrowed from BNF.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward, but
Yeah.
Okay, 2.7.
This is your 114.
Oh, okay. So you'll see all of those adjustments and corrections. They're mainly for the fact that, I'm sorry. 114 is increase in marketing. 114 is the branding and marketing section. So we have our existing contracts in fiscal year 25. When we were funded the amount of 63 million, we didn't have in consideration the 10% restriction. So many of our contracts were created before that 10% administrative restriction. So first we're adjusting so we can pay for those existing contracts, increasing that funding, and then increasing in our Japan market, creating a China GSA. Right now, China will not be funded. We don't have a fund in fiscal year 25 for China. We're carrying over funds that we had from the special fund, including air route development specialists, and then funding additional funds for increased costs in the island visitor bureaus.
Questions? Okay. 3.9.
BED 116.
Okay, so the next couple of them are actually, again, an accounting change or adjustment. We're requesting that our 115, 117, and BED 118 be combined with BED 116 into one program. So that way HTA will just have 3 programs to manage. And this is just an accounting of moving those funds in.
Tell Isaac do his job. That's not moving. That's not moving. Part of the reason why we have the different program IDs was in order for HTA to get the base budget, we wanted to make sure that when you had the lump sum, you kept moving monies around. And so we had no idea how monies were being spent. But if it's in the program ID, you can't move it around, and it's way more transparent for us.
So yeah, we agreed to that, and that's why we have the 3 programs, the major 3 programs, the administrative budget, the marketing and branding separated, and then the destination stewardship. And that aligns with our new reorganization plan that was approved by the board and then also the department.
You know, what's to prevent monies from different programs being moved around?
So we will have the accounting of within that new created
I mean,
the combined 1-1.
in the past, you had calls from legislators or the director who said, "Oh, I want you guys to spend money on a tennis tournament," and all of a sudden that wasn't in the original budget, and because you had the lump sum, you guys could move monies around, took it from someplace else that you thought you were going to spend it on, because the lump sum allows you that kind of flexibility.
Yeah. So Chair, to directly answer your question about that, when you reference Mr. Choi, he's very consistent about if it didn't belong in that program, then we shouldn't be funding it from that program ID. So, you know, if there are other concerns that you had from the past, you can certainly bring it up. But you can ask the administration.
Yeah. But this was a condition to make sure that we put it in the base.
Yeah. So I'm just saying he's not moving around stuff as far as I'm aware.
No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is when you start to collapse them, now you have less program IDs. So that means, again, more flexibility, which means less transparency.
We do have checks in place. First, our budget, our detailed budget must be approved by our board every year. Also, the detailed budget ask must be approved by the board and then submitted. We have submitted with the Form A's actually the very detailed budget, and in our policies and processes, we will continue to align with the details. So each of those smaller programs broken out within the larger program ID, or whenever we submit it to the legislature.
And Chair, also our ASO office goes through every single budget. So, you know, they make sure that there is transparency, there is alignment, and that we're not going off track from what the intent of the legislature was or is.
Okay, questions? Okay, why don't we go to the next one, because it's related to I guess some of the issues you guys are dealing with. So this is BED 120.
HSCL. HSCL.
Energy office?
Yeah. No, this is you, right? You're asking for a pay differential.
Scored.
Is that the payroll shortage?
Yes, the payroll shortage.
Salary.
Page is that?
That's the department actually. And we.
Energy office.
Yeah.
Stephen will explain.
No, he doesn't have to explain. Because what I calculate, so the current salary is what? What's the current salary
For
that position?
the chief energy officer position, sir. It is budgeted for just under 100. So the position that was taken to use for the chief energy officer position,
Okay, so when you add this amount, what would be the new salary?
it's around 180, which is based on the salary in a letter from the governor to the chief energy officer.
That includes range.
So when
No,
this,
no, the 180,000 does not include fringe.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, no, because fringe is 64% according to the BNF memo. So that means this would be 180,000 plus 64%. That comes out to $295,200. But then in yesterday's article, there was a concern about the $300,000 salary for HTA executive director. So why it's not consistent? You're supporting something that's going to be almost $300,000, but then with HTA you said no, we're not going to do $300,000.
Okay, so I would address the HTA question. During the budget review, and a lot of it comes from the discussions here. When HTA was founded, it was, so pretty much an autonomous organization with a bigger budget and a bigger amount of more employees there, which is not the current situation right now. So the governor felt that currently the responsibilities of that position did not raise to the level.
Oh yeah, so even if you went with the 180,000, even if you give them the same salary as the energy office, okay, how many people is there in green infrastructure? How much the staff count?
I don't know. I'll check. Go ahead.
One's here.
How many people you got in your 9? Okay, she has 9 people. And the salary for the ED is 191,000. That doesn't include fringe either. So when you include the fringe, you figure 191,000, $293 plus 64%. 191,000, 293 plus. Or should I keep hearing plus? That's 313. And so I don't understand the rationale that I read in the article versus the inconsistency with the other directors from the other attached agencies. She only has 9.
Yeah. So
Office of Energy, how many people you guys got?
21,
And how many people at HTA?
30.
Okay. So that means the HTA director is going to make less than the energy office and the green infrastructure person
But the
who only
board
has
said
9.
they were gonna limit the HTA director to 300,000 at the last meeting. I remember asking this question specifically.
Yeah, but that 300,000 doesn't include fringe. That's a $300,000 contract.
correct how it was
Yeah.
previously.
That's how it was previously, because we didn't want to pay fringe. We had people who had retired, and that's where we're gonna save money.
Now, I would say that 64% number that you're talking about is what UTF uses for federal positions and how much we.
No, that's BNF's memo.
Yeah, I know, but that number comes from a calculation.
Okay, what percentage you want for fringe then?
Well, I just know it wasn't a percentage. So what I did was I multiplied the amount versus what the actual vacation days are, what the actual holidays are, the sick days, and it's nowhere near 64%. for a position that if you look at the history of the HTA president and executive and CEO, we haven't had one that has been in that job for more than 3 years in years. So accumulating.
So I'm just saying, if you go back, let's say if you agree to the same salary as green infrastructure and include benefits. So that's okay. You can go down to 191 and include interest and include benefits.
I guess, Mr. Chair.
So you're okay with that?
Which part of it?
Because your discussion in the paper said you don't want anything above the LG, but you already have several people in your department that make more than the LG.
So I'm the department head. That directive came from my bosses. So I'm the one who.
Right, Senator Kim?
I just wanted to get a sense of when we increase somebody's salary, we don't look at the money's in the budget.
No, it's
Where's the money gonna come from?
by law, it's a contract.
Oh, you talking about the energy office or?
The energy office.
I believe the current salary is paid out of salary basis.
Okay, but I was reading where you folks wanted
Yes.
us to add more money because you didn't have enough for the payroll. And then you had a shortage in the position. So you're asking us to fund all of that. So are you asking us if you're getting out on our savings?
It was up until now, it has been funded out of salary savings. The other requests we have are to little bumps for a few long-term staff. And we also want to reduce.
Yeah, but if your department's gonna ask us, if you're gonna make the decisions to give a raise, then you gotta sustain that without coming in and asking us.
Just in case this helps, the CEO's salary is not a raise. It's based on the letter from the governor, the CEO.
Right, but, okay, but it's an increase. Okay, so if the governor's given an increase, did you guys ask him for the monies for the increase?
Did we ask?
The governor's office for the monies for the increase, because you didn't have it in your payroll. And if the ledge says no, then what?
No, we have said no.
Yeah, so
So
then
the
what?
last several years, we haven't approved it.
So now what? Did you guys go back to the governor and say we don't have the funding and maybe we have to cut the position salary down?
We may be in such a position, yes.
You may, if we say no, you are,
Right,
you are. And you know you would have been.
right. And since the CEO role that, reports to that's the cabinet level position with advice and consent from the Senate, was created, there hasn't been a salary or a position officially attached to that. When in that original statute, the CEO position was created out of an existing generally funded position with a salary below, well below what other directors are paid. And so what I've been told is that up until now, the shortfall in order to pay the CEO's salary has been out of salary.
Right, but how are you gonna sustain that when we've said no? Have you guys decided how you're gonna do that? Because you're telling us you don't have enough money to run the department. Because obviously you're using the money to pay the salaries or doing something, right? Isn't that part of your request?
We have salary adjustments, other salary adjustment requests, yes, in our request. I mean, I believe if the CEO position does not receive a raise, then I think we would discuss with the governor. And that would be,
Well, you would do what you're doing now. You would be taking from current expenses.
potentially, I'm not sure we have enough to go around.
Yeah, because they're asking us for monies because they're saying they don't have enough.
Yeah. Well, we still got half the year left. And on top of that, the budget withheld funds. So you must still have funds.
Right, there is some budget withheld as well. I think it's 5%, and then there's another 5% contingency. So I think we've sent in a letter to tap that. We haven't heard back yet, but it's a busy time.
Yeah. But I just want to make it clear, the HTA CEO is 300,000, no benefits. Yeah, currently. So when you compare no benefits with some of your other division heads or agencies that make those high salaries with benefits, they clearly exceed the 300,000 of the HTA contract for the CEO.
Okay, so
So if you're going to say nothing can go higher than the LG, then why did you guys approve some of these other ones?
Well, if you read the article too, there are other positions from the governor's response that are differently aligned than the HTA president and CEO position, like some of the positions at the medical school and other positions.
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole list of everybody that makes more than the
Yes.
governor here, but I'm talking about your own department, which you approve.
Yes. And again, it's a process, and if you guys see fit that my choice was wrong, then
No, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's not consistent. So if that's your policy and you're going to live by it, okay, be consistent. But that's not what we see here in how other division heads are being paid.
and yes, and we can talk about.
Because then it looks political. Because then now you're picking and choosing versus you're being consistent across the board.
I don't believe in the two positions that we're talking about. It's political, the responsibility.
As far as the salary
And
component,
I'm talking about the salary. I just think the responsibilities are different. So
they should be different. They're different divisions, but one is only 9 people. Tourism is our #1 industry.
yeah, let me clarify too. I think the acting president and CEO said 30. I think there's 30 positions budgeted, but hasn't been 30 positions in HTA.
Okay, still 9 positions. I don't think they're as low as 9.
No.
They don't manage the convention center either. And that, without HTA, we need to make sure that we get increased TAT. If not, you can't fund any of this stuff. It's going to be much harder. It's not just TAT, visitors pay GET.
Right.
So we need HTA to be at the point where they're bringing in and attracting visitors that are going to help generate those revenues. I still don't necessarily have a plan, though, that I've seen, which we've talked about for years, that HTA is going to target the higher spending visitor. And so we get all these budget requests, but there's no specific plan on, okay, who are we attracting as the high spending visitor? Do you know who that is?
The higher spending.
Yeah, who is that?
It's
The
people.
business.
No, so where? So where are our target markets?
So
What salaries? Where are we with that?
I can bring Daniel up here and he can explain what they're doing with their marketing plans.
Yeah, but you're on the board too.
Sure.
He's the executive.
Bring somebody else. I just like said before I start asking 800 questions because I'm waiting too long. Just like ask, did we vote on the 300,000 in the budget? Was it in the budget last, whatever, when we voted on it?
We, the legislature.
Legislature, we, not me, you, we.
I am not sure.
So when the thing went through the budget or the thing was in the budget, why wasn't the governor at that time vetoing the budget? He vetoed other positions, other things.
Because when it was presented to him in this budget go around is when he did it.
Okay, but what I'm saying, it was already voted on as a whole. He didn't veto it. He let it go through.
It was,
And then
voted-
now-
it was voted by the board.
Right.
And at that point, it wasn't him to interject, and he interjected when it was.
Who on the board would vote for?
I can check. I know I did it.
Did it pass?
It passed. It was 7-5.
And the reason why I ask is there's a lot of efforts in trying to get in this funding to get somebody, like Senator De La Cruz said, tourism is our #1 industry. No matter what anybody say on this island, without tourism, we dead. And then here we are, nickel and diming them. This person no more benefits or not going to have benefits.
Okay.
Kind of that way. And he's saying political in a sense, not saying that you try to be political with the funding, but you try to think about it this way. One person get benefits that is more than the lieutenant governor. One person no more benefits makes more than the lieutenant governor. You see, because when you say stuff like that in the media, I don't know who write the script. You got to be consistent what he's saying. Because you say that's in your guys' statute. It's within you guys, right? But then really, if you look at it, it's above a majority of the guys, or who we were just saying, makes more than the lieutenant governor. That's what we're saying, is just be consistent in what's being said. But there's a lot of effort that went into allocating or try to allocate the 300,000, right? So you guys thinking that you guys want to attract somebody for the position on a very important position, tourism, and then we're not going to take that seriously. And in every other position, around it and different responsibilities like Senator De La Cruz did, then we're not going to push.
Senator Favela, do you have a question?
And that is the question.
Okay,
Why nickel and diming them now?
okay,
And all this time. to
okay, we
change
got
his
the
mind.
question, we got the question.
Yeah, so
Okay.
what is it? You had all this time to change. Why now?
I am not gonna. I commented what the governor's directive was. I'm not gonna comment further than that.
But you ain't
When-
comment in the paper now.
Well, I was asked, I don't lie. Would they ask me a question?
Okay,
I would have-
thank you. We're gonna move on. Thank
That's
you.
not after-
Any other questions? Okay. Go next.
Okay, what is this 54,000?
General fund
Yeah,
adjustment for,
this.
general fund adjustment for, I believe it's 6 employees.
Why?
They've been, they're responsible for oversight of grants that we've recently received, and due to the increased workload and success in,
Yeah, but
achieving those grants.
how are
we've
these
been for
positions funded now?
General funds?
So you're asking that these positions pay, this money pay salary increases for those,
Correct.
and how many?
6.
So how did you guys determine that?
So there was, we looked at, we looked at market, well, obviously the state pays below market. We also looked at collective bargaining agreement adjustments and discussed with the employee and came up with a number that we felt was agreeable.
Okay, this just goes back. I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but this process is very different from the process you used again for the HTA CEO. So there's not a consistent process of how DBED is looking at setting salaries across the board.
Are these exam positions or civil service? The exams.
Exams, yes.
Okay, next.
One. Thanks, Stephen.
What is this, 211,000?
ED 138. This for your position, the Act 40.
No, you gotta explain why you want the money.
Yeah, that is for so last year or this past year, Act 40 was passed, which included one position to establish the Solar Hui Fund. That position has been filled, and that is to move this position into my base budget.
Okay. You know, when we looked at your annual report, your 2004, it was slightly different or quite different depending on how you looked at it from the 2023 report. So in your 2024 report, you didn't have as much detailed information as you had in 2023, including information on profile of customers, finance for residential loan program. And the 2023 report showed that loans were disproportionately distributed to customers with a credit score above 700.
So those metrics are reported to the PUC, and it's all public. I took it out of the 2024 legislative report because it caused a lot of confusion. So we have not pulled credit scores since 2018. Those were legacy before our green energy.
Yeah, but the whole point of green energy is supposed to help low income.
It is
But
low income.
You help more people with salaries over $100,000 annual salary,
Annual
and mainly customers that lived on Oahu.
Right. Annual household income is over 100,000, but those typically will support 10, 11, 6 people in the household. So what we use is the HUD's area median income, which applies the number of household members with the total annual household
And we
income.
talked about this last year where we didn't see enough effort on with your agency and going to low income areas. I mean, we talked about Molokai, we talked about other areas where they're not benefiting from your program at all.
So Molokai, we are working with the Oahu Collaborative Energy Molokai.
So how many
And
people were able to
So
get money?
we are, for that particular one, we will be providing 8.5 million in the capital stack that will provide 1,500 residential ratepayer subscriptions.
So
1,500 out of, I
but green
believe,
infrastructure is
2,500.
supposed to be they can do solar on their roof, they can do other things permanently.
Right. Right. We do have, on Molokai, we have solar hot water heaters. We have a few solar PV. It's just a little bit difficult to get contractors to Molokai because the cost is high. And for the contractors to go over to do one job, it's difficult for them. So they had a solar hot water contractor that we did a few there. Solar PV, the contractors flying in from Maui. And so we thought the better route for Molokai was to help with the community solar.
So, but when you looked at things like, I'm just going to summarize all of this because if not, we're going to take too long. But there's Act 121 from 2018, Act 107 from 2021. There's the Solar Hui program, CPACER. Like a lot of these that we passed, I don't feel meet the metrics that we intended when we passed these laws.
So with the different programs, there are different metrics, right? So
but they should all be for low income, and except where it specifically says, a state agency or a nonprofit, those are very specific. But with the amount of money we put in and the results that we're getting, I don't see that there's a good return.
So the financing that we do is for low and moderate income households, nonprofits, and small businesses.
So who evaluates you?
Well, I have a board. We report to the board. We report quarterly to the PUC. It gets approved by the board.
And then the board looks at the statutes and say, yes, you meet the metrics of the statute, or no, you didn't.
In our reporting, we provide, because it goes to the PUC also, we also provide all of the metrics.
Yeah. Yeah, you provide the metrics that you've achieved, but that doesn't mean it meets the metrics that we intended by statute. So we're talking different levels here.
So if you,
and so that's where, when you're going back to, even if you want to talk about salary, we're not meeting the metrics that we're required to or should be reaching according to the statute. Yet this is the highest paid division head.
Chair, if you're asking meeting the metrics, meaning financing low and moderate income and nonprofits and underserved, that's what we finance with the GEMS and the general funds.
Yeah, but when you read your annual report, I'm just saying it doesn't look like it meets a lot.
And that's why I took it out, because again, the metrics are based on the HUD's area median income metrics, which is a combination of total household income and number of people in the households. And that's, so many of our households have over 100,000 because they have so many people in that household. Okay. But according to HUD, it's still low and moderate income.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily look good. And now all of a sudden this metrics is no longer reported.
Because of this exact reason, because it confuses people, because people look at 100,000 and they go, oh, that's rich. And you can ask these households, I mean, they might have over 100,000 in annual household income, but it supports so many household members that they're not considered affluent, they're considered low or moderate income.
Okay, go ahead.
So going on the Oahu program that you do on Molokai, how do you factor in 1,500 residents at that income level? And how do you intake those applications? Because I can tell you the highest unemployment there, and then the centralization of it is in an area where those people are retired.
Yeah.
That are very high income level.
So the project, which is not constructed yet, right? We're in the middle of doing that. Will be able to provide 1,500 subscribers, and the project is targeting residential subscribers. We are going to use Solar for All federal funds for that project.
Yep.
Because up until now, we weren't able to finance community solar, right? So excited about the Solar for All federal funds. Solar for All requires that it's in a designated low-income census tract, which Molokai is, and at least 50% of the subscriptions are residential. In this case, I think it's going to be more than 50% of the residential are.
So when you guys, because you guys didn't build it yet, the centralization is in the Kavela area of Molokai.
I know where the project is, but I don't know what area.
Who vets the place for you folks or the proposal comes
That goes
in?
through the utility. So that the community solar project got approved by HECO.
Okay, so what I'm saying is when you guys do the stretch out of, if you guys build it in an area where there's retirees, who pays for all the stretch out of how that energy gets back out to the areas of
To
low
connect into the
income?
grid. Yeah, so that solar project is like a utility scale project in that the energy goes into the grid and then through MECO, it goes into the subscribers as a credit on their energy bill.
I finding it really difficult to intake 1,500 people on Molokai when the population is about 7,000. So I try to figure, so basically my question is how many applicants or intakes we get out of the $87 million with the GEMS program that you guys have appropriated?
Yeah, so right now we have about, we're working about 1,600 applications we're working through. That 1,500 subscribers are separate though. We haven't even gotten through that yet. The subscribers will go through the community solar project. It will go through Oahu and then come through us.
So that would be accounted for in the 87 mil?
No, that will be coming out of 62 million that we're getting from the federal government.
Okay.
But currently we don't have funding to do community solar.
So the state portion, if you look at the table 3, page 161, the state's portion, how many applicants island-wide are qualified to receive these loans?
For the ones we have in progress?
Because I know you guys stopped the intake of applications.
So they are eligible as long as they're low and moderate income per HUD, right? And so I would say they are all eligible. What we're doing is we're working through the system analysis to ensure we have bill savings in order to get it to on bill. And so with that, we can approve it.
Can you give me a list of the application, at least numbers per island that addresses that amount?
It's mostly, I can, but it's mostly Oahu and Maui.
Maui County or just Maui?
Maui, because that's where, so we, we're doing loans, so we don't actually go out and get applications and we rely on the contractors. So we have some on Hawai'i Island, a bunch on Maui and mostly Oahu, but I'll give you the breakdown.
That'll be helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, next.
Can I ask
Oh, go ahead.
Aside from your request is for the solar and whatever positions, your GEMS program started with the income that we all pay. How much we're taking out of our utility?
That's about $1.20.
Okay, can you give us an idea? How are you being paid by the income that we all pay to create, that we created GEMS?
Yeah, so
how much annually do you have?
So we actually are not able to keep any interest income from the loans that we make with the GEMS funds. The PUC ordered us to return it back to them. So what we had to do was when the PUC issued that order, so every time we get repaid.
That's because the monies came from the utility to the state, right? And that's why you got involved with PUC, because it's utility
funds.
Monies are giving to you. What is the amount and how is the program? So you get an annual or monthly income?
It was
you don't get any at all.
It was a bond issued in 2014.
Did we change it?
No.
Okay. So you don't have any monies coming from what we're paying.
So it was, so in 2014, the state issued a $150 million bond. And that is repaid on the utility bill, like it's a securitized bond, just like the one
that we're all paying.
Yes.
We're all paying for that. not the state, all of us. that
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
our
it's not an obligation of the
utility
state of
bill.
Hawaii. It's
Yeah.
not part of its, the BNF bond thing.
Okay,
The bond should be paid off in 2029.
okay, so everything else comes from us, from the general fund, for your agency.
No, so we live off of the special fund. The legislature approved 50 million for Alice households, and that's what we're deploying right now, the low and moderate income rooftop and storage solar systems.
Okay, what's a little confusing that I got calls from is that got your office and we got Office of Energy. And it seems like it's again going back to duplication of services that people are getting confused.
Yeah, we
anyway,
do
just to let
financing.
you know.
We don't do the policy stuff, just the
Okay.
finance.
All right,
And how much is this position?
This one is 125,000 plus fringe.
Okay, so that comes out to what? Your ask here is
200
211.
Yeah, whatever that total is.
And then you're already anticipating a raise. Is that why the second year there's already
That's
a
the
bump?
CB adjustment. It's a BU 13.
Okay. Okay, next.
excuse me, your board members, the authority. Why don't I see them coming over? We don't confirm any board members. So the board members that we created years back when I was chair of energy, you don't have changes. It's a board member that went continual.
No. So by statute, it's the director of DBED is my chair, and he was confirmed. The chief energy office was confirmed by statute, and the director of finance.
What about the
is
board
confirmed.
members?
The
The
two-
authority itself.
Yeah, the two, so those are 3 of the 5. The other 2 were confirmed. One is Dennis Wong. He's a retired lender. I
Okay.
needed lending experience on the board. And the second one is Richard Walsgrove. He's the law professor
Okay,
at
and
UA.
it's what, 8-year membership on the commission?
It's like 2 years and 2 years.
Oh, you're not 4 then, you're 2. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Okay, so BED 142 is the sports tourism manager position. So, as stated in his press releases and his comments in the media and to us, the governor wants to have a sports liaison directly integrated into his office via DBED to
Why
work.
not just have them? Because the governor can create special project positions now.
Yes, but we wanted to float this through the legislature. Yes, he can, and I told him that I thought it would be best to be upfront with the legislature that this is a position that we're asking for. And if he-
In HTA?
no, in DBED.
Why doesn't
So
it
how-
go to the governor's
But
budget instead of
HTA
you
already does
guys?
sports marketing.
Yeah, how many people does HTA have doing
So
sports marketing?
that was a position that was vacant and it was moved from HTA to accomplish or achieve the governor's goal and put it in and it's put in DBED.
No, but how many people does HTA have in sports marketing?
They have contractors that follow the sports contract, but that position was Ross Wilcom previously, and he's not been there for about 5 or 6 months now.
And prior to him?
Oh. Prior to him, I'm not sure who was there. Daniel.
So to clarify, HTA still has a brand manager focusing on sports, as well as we have sports marketing funding. Our intention, we're currently in the recruiting and reviewing positions. It was posted. We're conducting interviews right now. And that person is a brand manager, so mainly they will be facilitating contracts, ensuring that all of the proposals that come from various organizations and sports programs are reviewed. We also have funding, which we've said in the past that we would go towards a consultant who then will do the sales, marketing, and actively recruiting new types of sports.
And that was approved by the board.
Yes.
How much is that consultant anticipated cost for that contract, or have you folks done it yet?
We haven't set out the RFP yet, RFQ, but we estimate somewhere between the calculation is 75,000, maybe 100,000. We'll see what the bids come in. They're responsible for first identifying what sports venues are available, what support they can get with the industry here, and then attending many of those sports conferences and working with sports teams, develop proposals that more in line of what we want to see here in Hawaii, including ensuring that within the contracts that we do include community benefit, new training, such as I mentioned before, that in this recent one that we're negotiating in terms of football, that we do clinics with sports trainers, so that the high school sports trainers can learn something from the professional leagues, et cetera. And we've done camps, et cetera. But that all should be required instead of just assuming that a team will come here and play.
So we had sports consultants in the past, right? Excel, who was it? Excel.
Yes, and they came out with a strategy plan for us. That one, we'll do something similar to that, but we actually want somebody also that has the connections and experience at the national and international level that can go to negotiate with teams, as well as identify new up and coming trends and many of the conferences that are needed to do the sales.
When you read the justification, though, I'm not sure. This sounds duplicative.
Well, no, there's a lot of the other part of it, which was a more global, local reach into the high schools, into some of the coordination of, I'll give you an example. At Lahaina Luna, when everything happened there, the governor's special advisor was on the ground dealing with some of that stuff. So it's not only.
I'm just reading what this says.
Yeah.
And so the position plays a vital role in promoting Hawaii as a premier sports tourism destination.
That's one part of it. And then the rest in the bottom is the healthy Hawaii community, along with
yeah, so even it goes down to it includes that revenue enhancement that will help boost the state. That should be HTA, coming from sports tournament fees, income to hotels, food courts, restaurants, and other local Hawaii stores as mainland players and spectators come in. That's all within HTA.
And it wouldn't be lost in the governor's person to collaborate with HTA and achieve some of the same things, but a deeper dive into some of the community things, because his focus in the discussion was there are so many kids that excel in sports, but not as much.
Yeah, the only thing is when we start to add these erroneous positions to different divisions, that's not even required by statute. Yet we have all these other statutes that we can't seem to accomplish because they don't have enough positions. So now we're going to add positions for things that we don't have statutes for, while the statutory requirements of other agencies aren't being met.
We didn't. I won't debate the statute part, but we didn't increase positions. We moved positions from one position to the other, and then added in a consultant.
Yeah, I just think that's dangerous, in the sense where we're having all of these
and Senator,
positions that don't have statutory authority.
And instead of putting it through a position in the governor's office, that's why I recommended this. So we can have the dialogue.
But there's still no statutory authority or specific goals or mandates for this position. We would just be adding a position.
I don't agree, but we can give.
What do you mean you don't agree? If there was, it would be a bill. If you had a bill that says this is what this is going to do, it's required by law. If you read a lot of your requests, according to Act 201 or whatever it is, they have to implement, they ask for the position. This doesn't have that. Wait, Senator Favela.
No, just a couple of questions. I understand that there is funding at HTA, but right now the responsibilities for sports is not only being funded, but they're really doing it. You just talked about, I will just talk about the local one since you talk about local. Since HTA been doing this at the convention. We have volleyball, basketball, everything like that, that is happening locally. But what you're saying that the governor want to excel, which they're already having that in the convention center. And then they do the Honolulu Marathon, they do the Kona Triathlon. So I really don't understand why would this duplication of services, and again, what Senator De La Cruz says, going to DBED, when right now HTA is already doing it because they're the ones reach out to the different businesses and hotels that's going to accommodate all of this through the taxes that we're going to have. So that's my question. Isn't it already being done by HTA?
Some of it, yes.
Some of it, so what's not?
If you read on the bottom part of it, a big focus was on the educational component, as I was explaining to the chair, that the governor felt, that's where, kids that may not excel in education, but because of sports, they build confidence. And that's, we don't have a position like that at the DOE. We don't have a position like that anywhere else in statute. But so that's why, Chair, when we were asked about this, and yeah, we could have introduced a bill, but we felt that this was the most transparent part, because when you see it in table 6, you're certainly going to have questions, and that's why we're here to answer.
So what you just answered me now is a very small component to what HTA is doing. You're talking about an educational component that should be in education, not in DBED. And you're saying that you have an educational program that going at kids that don't excel in this, in education or whatever, they excel in sports. So you want to create a whole position in DBED just for concentrate on something that is rest of the programs, sports programs is already being done by HTA. So you want to put this in there because you want to concentrate on the kids that are not going to college. That's what basically you're saying?
Well, you might have heard only that, but there's all these other things that are a part of it as well. So I'm more than happy to sit and take the criticism. It's fine.
I'm not criticizing, just making an observation. If you feel that you're being criticized, then that's on you. It's just an observation because that's what we're observing right now. That right now, HTA is doing a great job in promoting sports at the convention center. All I know is because a lot of the kids from my community utilize the convention center for all kinds of sports locally. But you said about school, so that's high school. Now you're talking about outside, a marathon, outside, hotels, jobs, using the restaurants. Everything that you said is in that you're saying you want to put it in DBED, but it's already being done.
Can I say no?
Following up,
Yes.
I really believe the sports program should be with HTA. And they've been, well, some of you know that I'm a sports person too. And the marketing and the energy that HTA has done before has been good for the state. And look at the golf tournaments we're having. Look at all the promotions that HTA has done with regards to the sports management program. I don't think it should be with the governor. DBED has enough work to do. And I believe the marketing and everything in managing the sports program should be with HTA. And that's where it should be. Because we're looking at economics, we're looking at selling Hawai'i, and we can't worry about what the governor wants to do, because if he's going to put a sports person in his office, it's going against, and maybe against, a program that DBED has with other things. And so he can do anything what he wants to do if a person is in his office under DBED. But personally, I believe it should remain with HTA. They've done a good job, and let's continue actually advertising Hawai'i, because we can't depend on the future of our incoming visitors for the next several years. You guys know that. And that's why I worry about charging any more monies to the visitors. No different that we got to worry about what our visitor counts are going to be going forward.
So Director, let me follow up. So in this position, and this is my issue. We've always had challenges with the neighbor island schools, and I'll take Hana. Okay. it has never been where HTA had looked at the cost of these kids to travel and the outreach that came from the state. The lieutenant governor at that time had came to Hana because she saw what it took. And I think for those who joined us in Hana, realized that these kids struggled to get to Honolulu, to be on the same level playing field in the isolated, rural, underserved areas, and to compete at the same level. Does this position also outreach that? Because I know HTA has not outreached us in the schools at that level to help us with the cost of inter-island travel, where there was them that drove that road from Hana all the way to Lahaina to get on a ferry to go to Lanai and play. Then from Lahaina, go to Molokai play, reverse it around with Molokai and Lanai, now going while trying to fundraise that position and the outreach. So does this, my question was, does this position do that outreach? Because I know there are people that used to, but we had to do it internally to fund that. And then it became $1 million fund.
Yes.
The neighbor
Senator,
islands.
Thank you for the question. And definitely, as I said earlier, that was part of it. But, specifically funding for that would have to be something that is prepared by the person, whoever he or she may be, that these are the needs in the community. And in order to do that, because we've had I think you might have been in some of those meetings with Superintendent Hayashi, that there is a need for the outer island kids to.
And that's why I'm asking. And that's why I'm asking, because by the time they do the route, they are not in the same state of mind after long drives and
Right.
in island travel when they compete at that same level.
And as you.
Well, if that's the case, we should just subsidize some of their transportation costs,
Yep.
not add this position.
Yep.
And
Senator
that's-
Kim?
And Senator, I go back to saying, that's why we put it here, so that the discussion, the dialogue can happen. And then some of these things can get flushed out. But as we all know, Superintendent Hayashi has all kinds of different priorities from all kinds of different.
Yeah,
things.
but legislators can insert things.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Senator Kim.
And so, when we talked about funding some of these things with his team, that wasn't high on the priority list because he has, education, but the governor sincerely feels like education can be a part of a child.
I don't think we disagree.
Okay.
I mean, this might not be the right way, but we
So
don't
is
disagree.
there someone in education in his office? A position?
I know we met with Tammy a few times.
No, in the
Yeah.
governor's
I'm
office.
sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, you're just saying that education is so important, so I'm just trying to make a linkage. So is there a position to have a position in education at the governor's office?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, so my point is, and I understand you're taking the direction from the governor, so it's not necessarily your proposal, right? But if you look back under the last administration, when they wanted to go ahead and put the CIO with the governor's office, we've seen what happened over the years with CIO. And then we put the housing czar under the governor's office and we see what that happens. And now you want to put a sports coordinator. And the next, I'm just making this correlation is to maybe that's not such a good idea based on the past, on what's happened every time we try to link a position. And when do we end? Do we put one for higher ed? Do we put one for ed?
Give the budget for traveling.
Then we don't need the
DOE.
departments. We don't need positions in departments.
You do need money for transportation.
That's certainly one component of
Yes.
Senator.
Increase
Okay.
education, school sporting.
$1 million for MAP.
So actually for the MAP program and the following, BED 143 for SBIR. These are targeted for our programs, the Manufacturing Assistance Program that focuses on reducing consumer product imports as we expand exports of made in Hawaii products. 99% of the MAP program has gone to manufacturing equipment.
Yeah.
Just from some of the metrics in 2023, the amount given to HTC by the legislature resulted in 17 million leverage from the private sector, it created 449 full-time jobs, as well as saved about 318 jobs. And we do have a breakdown per county and how many grants were awarded and the amount. So in this program, we're asking for 1 million in our for each year, fiscal year 26, fiscal year 27. And you saw that in our ecosystem, we as sitting on as directors designated HTC's board, having a dialogue with the chair and then the interim director, Inouye, on how do we leverage going forward different tiers that align with certain industries we're working on. So if we're going to focus on value added production or advanced manufacturing, when we do the screening of applications, how can we leverage it phase 2, phase 3 in our ecosystem?
So what would the grants pay for?
These grants specifically have been used by the businesses to scale up. So for
Meaning
example,
what?
manufacturing equipment, like Hawai'i Ulu Co-op, they used it for refrigeration and small processing. We just did a visit last month to Normal Labs in Kailua. They bought a CNC machine as they're doing a prototype to create a AC appliance, as well as recirculate the heat instead of releasing the heat into the just outside. They were able to take a CNC machine, purchase it through the manufacturing grant to allow them to establish and scale up.
My only concern is it doesn't seem to follow the same path that you presented, in the sense where if we provide grant money, a company could buy equipment, they reach a ceiling, and then they leave.
We've had that discussion. There is no guarantee that a company would close, or we can't go back and get the funds after we can't get the equipment. That is a concern that we've expressed.
Okay, versus going back to what you presented in investing this into shared facilities.
So in the phase, correct, Senator. So if we're able to get the support to build out open access facilities long-term, there could be consideration to wean off some of the tax credits or as well as grants on the books now. Currently, we could look at it short-term, long-term. The businesses that come out of phase 2, phase 3, they would more than likely be established, as we learned on certain site visits, going through the educational program, going through our open access facility, and utilizing that grant to help them scale up. That is a policy call too that we could look at in what
And a lot of these companies, they can't afford the rent, right? So that's where going back to additional warehouse or whatever the case, instead of just the sandbox. That's not that might be hard for someone to scale up at the sandbox. But if they're going to be manufacturing, you need warehouse space that DBED can lease to.
In our site plan that we had up earlier, it did have a placeholder for an example of warehouses as they go from phase 2 to phase 3. Phase 1 was education, as I mentioned. Phase 2 was ADC for that example, or CID in the creative lab. But that isn't permanent. That is just to help them establish and scale up. Phase 3, either the state develops warehousing or they look for private sector. There is a high demand for the grant program. Last year, 86 applications applied for fiscal 23 and only 26 were provided a grant due to the limited funding of $2 million that we received last year.
So how many of those applications could we convert to shared facilities versus giving them money so that they could buy equipment?
I would have to look, but food and beverage was approximately, hold on, I got that number. Unless Sandy, you know it off the top of your head. Food and beverage was a significant.
Well, Deputy Directors, and I can also say, Chair, that, we talk about buying land for warehouse space or looking at warehouse space, but we're also internally with the state's inventory looking at warehouse space that we can potentially use. And a perfect example is the Bex facility on Kauai, where we are looking at that space to do a smaller version of the manufacturing on Kauai. And that was a sweetheart deal that, thank you to the DOE, DBED through HTC, got the facility. So we will continue to look for opportunities like that.
So how many operators or small businesses could that facility accommodate?
I'm not sure. Let me ask Wendy. Have we had, well, you can just stay there if you know the answer or not. Have we had?
If not, if you don't know it, we can get it later.
Yeah, we'll get
I would
it.
say that there tenants in that area, all that could benefit, in addition to the DHHL tenants, in addition to Ian Robinson.
Okay, you can just give us the amount later.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be a different approach that might be more concrete. Okay, next. I guess the next two, those two are the same almost.
So SBR is a different, this is also a federal match program. This is for the innovation and technology side. So we leverage the dollars given to us, and they do a federal match to help them scale up through technology and innovation specific companies.
Okay, Office of Planning.
This is from Maras. So the BD 144, these next two, I did mention in the slide deck. This is requesting 3 temp positions in special plans branch to help us with the planning of the guidance of those mandates. The second one would be a temporary position to help us map out phase 2 of Act 36, which was passed last session.
Any questions? You want to make your case, or you just going to do it later?
This would be under 3 positions. Anything to add?
No, thank you very much, Deputy Director. I think these are very important initiatives that the legislature has mandated, and we need these 3 existing already filled positions in order to continue that good work.
Any questions?
I have a question on your climate change mitigation console that you co-chair with Department of Land and Natural Resources. A lot of the discussion that we had this morning with the console co-convener, I guess, was that what they were doing was planning, and what you're doing is planning, and there's no implementation of projects. So I'm wondering how you are working together so that we can actually see projects on the ground on mitigating, especially our coastline areas.
The way Chapter 225P3 was set up was to, back in 2014, and then again when it was revised in 2017, it was starting with awareness building of the risks of sea level rise to coastal communities, and also the risks of heat stress and the other impacts, physical impacts of climate change. So it started with that awareness building, and that we turned to the University of Hawaii, and they did some excellent work in creating a sea level viewer that has gone out to the communities. It's accessible. So what the goal there is to make communities and state and county agencies aware of those risks, and to start assessing what their own facilities or programs may have to change in order to be more protective from sea level rise and other climate changes.
With staff.
Are you coordinating so there's more proactive, say in terms of developments and what's happening on the coastline, to actually implement projects that will be considering the impacts of sea level rise and climate change?
What the Climate Change Commission did this year is ask the state agencies to start thinking of what kinds of projects they would need for adaptation. And what Office of Planning and Sustainable Development did, and thank you, legislature, for giving us $400,000 last year to develop a risk assessment tool for state agencies' facilities that are at risk of damage from sea level rise in the coastal area. And we've almost finished that work. I think our report may have been posted already and sent to the legislature. It does give agencies a way to assess the risks to their own facilities. They will be responsible to ask the legislature or federal funding agencies for funds to start implementing the adaptations they need to protect their facilities.
So in terms of developments coming on board, the state agencies, I know that was a program like 3 years ago, we wanted it done. But in terms of private development that's happening on the coastline, what are you doing to expand what your viewer is to help coordinate that effort so that we protect our shorelines.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you know what? I don't want these. I'm not sure how late we're going to be, but for HHFDC, we're probably not going to ask you questions today. We're probably going to do a separate housing budget briefing with you and Public Housing Authority. So I don't know if you want them to stay or it's up to you, but I'm just telling you, we're going to do housing separately.
So Chair, is it your intent to go through table 6 and then that's the?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, we're almost done, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think they mind staying so they can understand what's happening.
So they can prepare.
Yes.
You got your.
Okay.
declaration of the-
What is this now?
To restore funds for a permanent plan program manager. Old position.
Your own.
You want to convert them all to a fund?
Oh,
Fair.
the question, that one was on the conversion of coastal zone planning, the conversion of N funds to A funds.
Okay, this is 144 PZ. Okay, this is our coastal zone management program, which was adopted by Congress in 1976. And the state passed its own coastal zone management law, chapter 205A.
Yeah.
At about that time. And it was a partnership between the federal government, NOAA, and the U.S. Department of Commerce and the state. And the initial agreement was a 1-to-1 match between state funds and federal funds. Yes. So in 2009, when Governor Lingle instituted a reduction in force in response to the 2008 financial crash, in order to save those positions and those long-term civil service permanent employees, the federal government agreed to allow us to shift the funding from state funds to federal funds on the condition that we work to restore the state funds for those positions.
So this is a match?
It is a match, and we are required to fulfill that, but they waived it, made an exemption in 2009 in order to save the positions and the people.
Yeah. So what is this amount for then? The match? Or is it for all of
Okay,
them?
This is just those 5 positions.
Yeah.
And that's all salary. And
So
it
is A funds paying the whole salary or just a match of it, a part of it?
These aren't 50-50 matches.
What's the
where you have-
match?
Each position has half. Remember, we did that with HTDC. This is, the match is for the overall program, the total amount, and these positions are going to be 100% state funded. Then other expenses will be federally funded so that, there will still.
So what happens if this doesn't get funded?
We will ask again next year.
But, okay. Okay, ceiling increase.
That's your BD 144.
Oh, yes. We have been very successful in getting competitive grants, not positions, but competitive grants from Coastal Zone Management, NOAA.
Oh,
And so.
so this, so you can spend the
we
additional
increased
monies.
it to be able to reflect
Okay.
the fact that we're getting these additional project funds, grants in our budget.
Okay.
But the question Senator asked earlier was if we don't get the positions, you said, well, ask again, but will the positions go away?
Okay. Why don't we go BED 150?
Excuse
Oh,
me.
you had a
I'm
question?
sorry.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm sorry. Because you're in my purview. Water and land.
Yes, I am.
Question,
Yes.
and I'm not sure what was covered by the chair. Transferring the positions to Land Use Commission, we talked about this many years, and we're gonna do it. So that's,
What I'm asking, what we're asking is to restore the program ID
Because we
for
do
the
have
Land
budget.
Use Commission in order to comply with Act 153 that we
Right.
passed in
This is not a-
2021. we're not asking to amend Act 153. What we're
Right.
doing is following your direction to set up policies and procedures to ensure that there isn't an appearance of conflict of interest or a conflict of interest between the fact that they're attached to the Office of Planning for administrative purposes. That would, without these protections for the Land Use Commission's autonomy, policy autonomy, there could be a conflict of interest appearance unless we be able to restore their program ID. This will make their budget be separate from the Office of Planning's budget so that there'll be no question.
Sure, it will be like an autonomy. They're on their own, right? With the exception.
Yeah, they're still attached to.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But they're on their own, yes.
But they'll have their own budget.
Yes.
That's exactly what we all look forward to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, why don't we move on to 150?
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director of Hawaii Community Development Authority. The first item there, BD 150 KA, is a request related to the 99-year lease credit program.
But just to point out, this is like, see how it says Act 97?
Yes.
Required by statute?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of what I was referring to, but okay.
So you're right. This is related to Act 97, Session Laws.
The housing part.
The 99 lease program.
Yeah.
So
It's
just,
yeah.
right. It's
Okay.
99. So.
No, we passed it.
We did, you could.
Yeah, okay, next.
So okay, okay. So the BED, the other one is climate change assessment. And that was related to Act 221, Session Laws of Hawaii 2023. It required us to take into consideration the design, take into consideration sea level rise in the design and siting of buildings in the Kalaeloa and Kaka.
Do you know why the bill itself didn't have an appropriation?
Which one? What bill?
No, the one that Act 221.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it did it, but it did it at the time.
Okay,
And we want to do rulemaking, talk to stakeholders, and assess it further.
that's gonna take forever.
Not,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's gonna be fairly quick, but that's 500,000 in A funds.
So with that said, then, yeah, at least you're clearing it up now too, because if anyone looks at this, and I was gonna ask the question, sorry, folks, it's under my purview too, but it's in DBID's budget. But anyway, climate change assessment, you look at it and it's HCDA. Why are you doing climate change when all the other agencies are doing it? But yours is only for the projects,
Yeah.
the areas that's
No.
under HCDA.
Well, that's what I was alluding to earlier. Some agencies are doing planning.
Yes.
You're not planning it.
We are.
See, okay, you're planning too.
We are planning. We're planning and redevelopment.
HCDA should be doing the construction.
And redevelopment. And
Oh my gosh, you
Exactly,
guys.
So I
exactly.
think what Mary Alice alluded to was that, she and the LNR director look at climate change from a policy perspective. This one, I think, looks at implementing
Wait, is it planning for construction?
for development.
So,
Okay, I mean, we gotta see some projects. If not, we keep talking about climate change, but I don't know anybody that says, oh, that project was a result of
Well,
the state trying to deal with climate change.
when we spoke to the Sea Grant folks the other day, I mean, they pointed to this act and what we're doing right now when we review development permits as kind of the model for this kind of approach. So
yeah, but Craig, you kind of mentioned sea level rise. Climate change is it's almost a lot of stuff. But when you look at your projects, Kaka'ako,
Yeah. no,
Makai, you don't have too many things in towards the water side. Kailailoa, do you have things that's by the water side, or yours is all Mauka?
Senator, so just to clarify, even on Makai, just because a project is not right next to the water, doesn't mean that it's not subject to the effects of sea level rise.
Well, I cannot agree because we all know Waikiki and
Well,
Kakakumakai were all underwater anyway
Yep.
before. Still underwater.
I just want to say
Okay.
that just because we have Javstone, we have Cancer Research Center, yeah, but
But clearly, at least now we understand, it's only pertaining to the projects that you're under.
Hawaiian
And future, if you're gonna get some more.
Okay, why don't we go on to the, oh, go ahead.
I just like to ask one question because I get about 700 different things of saying why climate change is another tax problem. Yeah, so to me, I like to know what actual scientific data that you guys had done, all this studying and all this reviewing, not billing. What is the actual scientific data of climate change? Because I'm hearing it from a 13-year-old girl, or maybe now 15. What is the scientific data that you guys actually have? Not because you guys looking at the North Shore now, because you're talking about Kaka'ako who was put boulders in the ground. That's how Kaka'ako was developed. I don't know what is the scientific data, because you're talking about the area in my area is affecting Hawaiian homes. And the guys who lived there for 100 years, 125 years, water never came past the road. But then we affecting Hawaiian homes because of climate change and sea level rise. So I just like know if anybody, not you, but if you know anybody, and they send us a message, what is the actual scientific data?
Yeah, but at this point, you don't have to worry because they're stuck in planning.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think, I mean, I don't know. It's like I don't know how long we're gonna be stuck in planning.
Sorry.
Stuck here.
Mama, we can talk.
Okay, wildfire recovery.
This is HHFD CBD 160. They
Okay,
have
we get-
3 requests. It's under administration, finance, and development. Majority of these requests are to cover their travel to continue with the Maui wildfire mitigations. Specific projects this will support is the FEMA housing
Yeah,
project
yeah.
at Le'ali'i, the DHS project at Le'ali'i, rebuilding the Front Street apartments, which are HHFDC owned, and then the Hale Olaie project currently housing wildfire survivors.
Okay.
There's also a license AI licensing purchases we're requesting in this as well.
And then what is this revolving fund for AG support?
For AG support under BD 170. That's
Yeah.
when it come up. Oh, so there's. can I say it, NPD, yes. Yeah. So we have 2 current items that are
Your
outside
current AG cannot,
capacity, no.
you didn't even hesitate.
It's capacity. We have major items that are new to the board, so.
Okay, that's fine.
First do that.
And the 49 million,
Oh, this is for our stadium authority. This is a request we've done in the last year. So legislature authorized the 49.5. We
did the
need.
House laugh? Did this come up in finance at all? Oh, then good
Well,
luck.
we brought it up, there was no.
No reaction. Yeah, you get all the reaction in the Senate.
Yes, we've been here. And we expect that, Senator, Chair.
Well, good luck with this. I mean, I'm not sure later at some point, I'm sure the subject matter will have a briefing on the stadium to see where it's at.
I can question for the stadium. You know, looking at your overtime expenditure and in your estimations for fiscal year 25, your overtime is 5,000. But in fiscal year 26,
Oh, yeah.
you budgeted $80,000 for overtime. Why?
Historically, thank you for the question. Ryan Andrews from the Stadium Authority. Historically, the budget was 80,000 each year for overtime. I will add that the overtime is related to event operations that occur nights and weekends, which all events, that's when they occur. I'll also share that they're paid for by the licensee, so they're not paid for by our own. But yeah, now that we are an agency that's not doing a ton of operations, we're transitioning to a development. Our use of overtime and events is decreasing.
So no, but you guys still gonna leave this under your guys' budget in 26, or is this the developer's budget?
No, that's our budget.
Stadium won't be ready till 28 or maybe.
Yes, yeah, I know, but you're not building on that.
No.
So why that high of an overtime? Because I don't think you work in nighttime, or you guys have somebody on site.
That's just an expense ceiling. We don't anticipate to spend to that amount. We don't. Like I said, last year we spent $4,700.
So
you know, like drop them to 4,700 because 80,000 don't look too good to me.
reflect that in going forward, but none of that, as Ms. Andrew said, none of that is paid by the state. It's paid by the vendor who, whether it's a wrestling match or whatever happens at the stadium now.
So you guys still gonna get activities going on at the stadium during that time?
We will continue to offer the swap meet as well as continue to offer potentially concerts as well in our upper Halava lot. So we will still do events where we can.
Yeah, you need some income.
Okay,
Correct.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yep.
Go ahead.
You guys liquidating stuff in the stadium, the memorabilia, chairs and everything. What, to this date, stuff that you guys sold, you guys will generate funds?
You're asking how much revenue we've generated to date. I can get you that answer. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, I know, because you got online bidding, but I mean, I'm just saying, yeah.
The majority of the stuff that was of value went to University of Hawaii, high schools, et cetera, for them to reuse.
Okay. Just like, no, 80,000 or something.
But if you need to share, there's extra share.
Okay, thank you.
Bigger chairs?
Any other questions? Okay, I guess we'll give them a break.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're adjourned. Oh, go ahead.
It has to do with the budget.
Well, go ahead. I asked.
The small animals slaughterhouse.
Oh.
In D-bed and not in.
No,
DOA.
ADC.
It's a BET.
Oh, the ADC.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Okay.
okay.
BET 170. So we're responsible for commercial operations, not
scaling up.
regulatory.
You know where it's gonna be?
We're looking at a place along Kunia.
Okay,
and
can I
Oahu.
see you after then? I got a project for you. Then you don't have to buy property. Jimmy Yagi, if you know Jimmy Yagi, the basketball player, that family owns, they have a slaughterhouse. The family owns additional 23 acres. And we've been trying to increase the slaughterhouse for East Hawaii and for Hamakua Coast. So anyway, just let's talk
Okay,
story.
that might be your own legislative ad.
We're not gonna do the mobile one. I think one time you guys are gonna try to do mobile for the small animals.
We're looking at a permanent brick and mortar for that capacity. There is a temporary mobile.
Okay, we have other questions, but what we'll do is we'll just form a memo and send it to the department. And then other members who have questions that they couldn't ask, we can send it to you in writing. Okay, thank you.
Carry on.